Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Invincible Sect Leader. The succubus disciples are scarred at the beginning. Chapter 1. You useless thing, get out. In front of a dilapidated house, Chen Yi grabbed a woman's neck with one hand and threw her out while cursing. After the woman was thrown to the ground, she coughed out a mouthful of blood. That woman's appearance is extremely beautiful, and all men will be fascinated by her when they see her. Her fair, slender and beautiful legs were just exposed in the air. Under the somewhat transparent dark purple gauze dress, you can faintly see her well-developed figure. However, there were ferocious scars everywhere on her perfect body, as if she was going to faint at any moment. This is no ordinary woman, she has a pair of black horns on her head, which is a unique symbol of the demon race. Her eyes were red, she cried to Chen Yi, and begged pitifully. "Master, please don't drive Kyaner away. You can do whatever you want Kyaner to do, as long as Kyaner can stay by your side." Kyaner won't be able to survive without her master. This demon race woman's name is Su Jiqian. Her voice should be charming, but now it seems particularly miserable. While she was praying, Chen Yi suddenly covered his head in pain without any warning. Seeing this, Su Jiqian stood up again, quickly helped Chen Yi sit down, and asked with concern. Master, what's wrong with you? Is the wound painful? I will help you lick it. The succubus's saliva can heal the wound." As she spoke, she licked her lips and stuck out her pink and full tongue. The whole soft and delicate body just nestled against Chen Yi's body, her body temperature slowly rose, and her face was full of intoxication. At this time, Chen Yi covered his head and was unconscious for a while before regaining consciousness. When Chen Yi woke up again, he was already a different person. Today's Chen Yi comes from a blue planet. To put it in detail, I met a B2 motorcycle man on the road and asked him if he wanted to go to another world. Then his vision went dark and he arrived here. But what a coincidence, the two people from different worlds are both named Chen Yi. After Chen Yi recovered, the memory of this body flashed through his brain. Chen Yi's body had been transmigrated once before, and this was the second time he had been transmigrated. In the earliest days of the original body, he was a very kind-hearted master who adopted a total of 2 direct disciples with excellent talents. And the beautiful woman in front of her is Su Jiqian, the earliest disciple she accepted. The main body took good care of the 2 disciples and established a huge sect called Profound Heaven Sect. But then, somehow, the body was suddenly taken over by someone else, that is, the previous host of this body. The host seemed to have suffered some serious illness after seizing the body, and suddenly started a war with another large sect, the Sanyuan sect, trying to snatch a treasure from the other party. Because the host did not know how to command, the sect battle was never fought, the treasure was not captured, and all the sect members ran away after the defeat. Fortunately, there are still 2 loyal disciples who have never left. But the host did something even more stupid. He didn't dare to go, so he asked the 2 disciples to steal the Sanyuan sect's treasures. If he didn't go, he would be tortured over and over again, and even threatened with expulsion from the sect. But fortunately, this host seemed to naturally dislike women, so he didn't do anything more extreme to these 2 loyal female disciples. Now this body is in Chen Yi's hands. As a transmigrator, Chen Yi naturally obtained the system. The introduction of the system is very concise. As long as he recruits a disciple with good talent, he can obtain system points. System points can be exchanged for various rare treasures, cultivation levels, elixirs, etc., etc. While unlocking the system also issued a task to him. Ask him to comfort the 2 disciples, and then he will be rewarded with system points and a novice gift pack. If he remembered correctly, the previous host asked Su Jiqian not long ago to steal the treasure of Sanyuan sect alone, but Su Jiqian actually went there in order not to disobey her master. The treasure was the heirloom of the Sanyuan sect, so it was naturally very strictly guarded. Su Jiqian failed as expected. After the failure, she used the method of losing her lifespan to escape. And the first thing she did after escaping was to apologize to her master. She was worried that the master would dislike her and drive her away. As long as she was not expelled from the master, she would be willing to bear whatever the master did to her. "Master, are you feeling better?" Su Jiqian licked the corners of her mouth and asked with concern, while also showing an expression that seemed to be intoxicated. It had been a long time since she had touched her master, and just now she not only touched her, but also licked her. But no matter what, the smell on master's body is so good. Thinking in her mind, she couldn't help but step forward and rub her master's arm. In the earliest days, she often acted coquettishly with her master like this, and the master would not find her annoying, but would gently caress the top of her head. Looking back on that time, it was already 3 years ago. That kind of life is still beautiful. She gradually fell silent in the master's breath, and it took a long time for her to remember. The current master is no longer the gentle master she once was. She just touched the master without his consent. The master will definitely be angry. I'm afraid if nothing unexpected happens, she will suffer another brutal beating. I just don't know if she can survive it with her current physical condition. When she thought about being beaten to death by her master and never seeing him again, her heart ached. It would be great if master could recover. At this time, Chen Yi looked at Su Jiqian, who still cared about him even though there was only one breath left in front of him, and he felt an unparalleled sense of self-blame in his heart. Facing such a good disciple, the previous host actually beat and scolded him, and even wanted to expel him from the sect. That host is still a person. He can no longer undo how the previous host tortured these 2 disciples, but in the future, he will never do it again no matter what. If he wants to become the gentlest master again, he must not break the hearts of these 2 disciples. Realm Division. Entraining Realm, Hautian Realm, Innate Realm, Foundation Establishment Realm, Divine Treasure Realm, Violet Palace Realm, Primordial Spirit Realm, Cave Ruins Realm, Transcending Tribulation Realm. Now, if he wants to become the gentlest master again, he must not break the hearts of these 2 disciples. Chen Yi was thinking to himself when he saw him reaching out his hand and touching the top of Su Jiqian's head. Su Jiqian looked at master's movements, her whole body was trembling uncontrollably, her eyes were full of fear, but also full of emotion. Since the master's personality changed drastically 3 years ago, he would punch and kick her every time he reached out. Her talent is extremely good, and she reached the innate realm 3rd layer at a young age. However, in the past 3 years, her previous host had continuously tortured her and never provided any training resources to help her. As a result, not only did her level not rise at all, but she even fell to the innate realm 1st layer. Although she was very afraid of the master's beatings and scoldings, she did not dare to take a step back every time. Because she was worried that if she did anything to avoid it, her master would be dissatisfied and expel her from the sect. No matter how much master beats, scolds or hates her, she is unwilling to leave master. Because she is not afraid of death, her life was given by master, and she is only afraid that she will never see master again. In this fantasy world, there are often frictions and fights between various races, and different races are often hostile to each other. At that time, demon race was besieged by decent monks, and the entire clan was massacred. The leader of demon race had long heard that Chen Yi did not discriminate against other races, and even established the Profound Heaven sect to accommodate many monks from other races, so he entrusted his own daughter to Chen Yi, hoping that he could take her away and adopt her. The master is a very powerful monk. Not only did he protect her, but he also unconditionally protected the other clansmen who were still alive. In other words, the master is not only her savior, but also her mother and even the benefactor of the entire clan. Master was once so gentle and considerate. Although she didn't know why the master's temperament suddenly changed, she always firmly believed that the master was just confused for a while, or had some serious illness. As long as she stays by master's side, master will definitely be able to recover. After master recovers, she and her junior sister can continue to live happily with master. But now, master has not recovered yet. Seeing the master's hand gradually stretched out, she closed her eyes tightly, and her body gradually curled up together, with her arms protecting her injured parts. Is master going to hit her again? As long as master feels comfortable, it's okay for her to get beaten a little, as long as master doesn't drive her away. She thought to herself, gritting her teeth tightly in her mouth, ready to endure the pain. But after waiting for a long time, the pain did not come as she expected. On the contrary, she felt some warmth on the top of her head, and a familiar touch was coming from the top of her head. She opened her eyes with some confusion, and then she saw the scene she had dreamed of most in the past 3 years. At this time, the master in front of him no longer had the cold and ruthless expression, but was filled with warmth, goodwill, and some helplessness. Seeing this absolutely impossible scene, she was immediately stunned, and her heart was filled with disbelief. How could the master who always beat and scolded her show such a gentle expression? The reason why Chen Yi acted a little helpless was because he believed that he owed his two disciples too much over the years. Although Chen Yi was transmigrated, he inherited the memories of the past. In other words, in his opinion, those things in the past can be regarded as his doing. After all, this body is his now, even if he doesn't admit it. Chen Yi looked at the disbelieving eldest disciple in front of him and felt guilty. He immediately hugged her into his arms, caressing her back and said, "It's all over, Kaianer, Master won't hit you anymore. Master, I've been sorry to you all these years. It's all Master's fault." Even though Chen Yi had thousands of words to say to the first disciple, but seeing the fragile appearance of the first disciple now, he felt that all the words were not worth an apology and comfort. As long as the eldest disciple can still forgive him, it is not too late for him to repent now. Su Jiqian was slightly lost in thought for a while after listening to her master's words. Master would actually say this to him. Master's gentle tone, could it be that he has recovered? Master has really recovered. After a long time, she realized the fact. The tears flowed out instantly and she couldn't stop them. They kept dripping down the corners of her eyes to the ground like raindrops. Then she hugged Master tightly while crying, enjoying Master's warm embrace wantonly. She has suffered a lot in the past 3 years. She doesn't know why Master suddenly changed back, or how long the current gentle Master state will last. But she only knows that if she doesn't enjoy Master Hui's arms more now, she may not have the chance in the future. But if possible, she hopes that Master can remain the same as he is now forever. Su Jiqian sniffed and sobbed softly and replied, "Master, you don't need to apologize. It's all Kaianer's fault for not being able to steal the treasure Master wanted in the past 3 years. If I had stolen it earlier, Master would have recovered earlier. Kaianer deserves all these punishments. As long as Master doesn't drive Kaianer away, everything will be fine." In her opinion, the reason why the Master became a cruel master was all because of the treasure of Sanyuan sect. If she was strong enough and stole that treasure earlier, Master's heart disease would definitely be cured soon. The reason it took so long was all her fault. When Chen Yi heard the eldest disciple's slightly self-blaming words, his whole expression turned ugly. He blamed himself to the extreme. What kind of fairy disciple is this? He treated her so well before, and she didn't blame herself, but thought it was her fault. This is no longer something that can be staged in science fiction movies. According to the description in his memory, the punches and kicks he had given to the disciples in the past 3 years were considered light. Just look at the large scars on the eldest disciple's snow-white skin. He almost beat the disciple to death several times. He even used various cruel methods to torture him, and he didn't dare to think about the details. But despite this, the eldest disciple has never escaped once. In the eyes of the eldest disciple, every time he looks at the master who tortures him, the expression is not filled with hatred, but with emotion. Those eyes full of affection will make any man feel pity for her. But the previous host of this body was not moved at all, as if he had a natural aversion to the opposite gender, and continued to carry out atrocities. Chen Yi took a deep breath and readjusted his state. He first gently touched the bleeding wounds on Su Jiqian's body with his hands, poured his spiritual power into them, and stopped the bleeding. Then he took out a healing pill from his storage ring and handed it to Su Jiqian. Chen Yi himself is a monk from the Divine Treasure Realm 9th layer, but due to the previous battle with the Sanyuan sect, his body was also seriously injured. The realm has dropped to the Divine Treasure Realm 1st layer level, but there are still many treasures and elixirs on the body. But Su Jiqian's injury was too serious, and I'm afraid it would be impossible to cure it with just one healing pill. In Chen Yi's system store, there is a systematic healing pill, which is said to be able to cure all diseases. It's just that he has just unlocked the system and has no system points yet. He needs to complete the first task released by the system and comfort 2 disciples before he can obtain system points to redeem. Su Jiqian took the healing pill from her master and was slightly stunned. The master has not given her anything about cultivation for a long time. Even every time she was tortured by her master, her junior sister would go out and pick the healing herbs for her. When the junior sister was seriously injured, it was her to collect medicine. After the master's temperament changed drastically, she and her junior sister almost depended on each other. Neither of them wanted to leave their master, they wanted to stay with him and wait for the day when he recovered. Looking at the pill given by her master in her hand, Su Jiqian cried even harder. Master comforted her gently and now gave her healing pills to treat her injuries. After looking up at Master's gentle face again, she was really sure that Master seemed to have really recovered. Master. Su Jiqian looked at her master affectionately, her charming fox eyes filled with emotions she had never vented before. Although she is Master's disciple, she has always been in love with Master in her heart. At the beginning, when she expressed her love to Master in a vague way, Master always treated her as a child and never really regarded her as a woman. After the Master's temperament changed drastically 3 years ago, she did not dare to reveal any feelings to him. Because whenever she has any interest, the Master will be disgusted and he will punch and kick her. But now that Master has recovered, does it mean that she can continue to pursue Master? Thinking of this, she felt that the pain in her body had weakened a bit. As long as she can continue to pursue her master, the torture she has suffered in the past few years will be worth it. Seeing that Su Jiqian was still holding the healing pill in her hand but not taking it, Chen Yi walked to her side with concern, sat down cross-legged, and said softly, "Your injury is a bit serious. Take the elixir quickly and use the spiritual energy in your body to replenish your empty dantian. This will relieve the pain and make you feel better faster." Su Jiqian stopped crying when she listened to the gentle voice of her master behind her. A happy smile gradually appeared on her lips. After listening to her master's words, she took the elixir. She has never been wary of Master. When the Master tortured her before, he also gave her something similar to a healing pill, and she took it without thinking. It turned out that the pill was a soul-stealing pill that would damage one's lifespan and enhance the body's strength. After she took the elixir, her realm fell all the way to the innate realm first layer level. Her senses were completely lost for 3 days and 3 nights, and there was no part of her body that was not in pain. It took her several months to escape the danger of life. The first day she regained her ability to move, she quickly went to find her master to see if he had been injured by the side effects of the soul-stealing pill. After all, the elixir will also cause some damage to the body. Only when she saw that her master was fine could she feel relieved. Now that the master gave her the elixir again, she continued to take it without even thinking about it. Not to mention that the master has recovered now, even if she has not recovered, even if she knows that it is still a soul-stealing pill. But when she thought about what she could do for her master, she would obey without hesitation. As the elixir enters the body, its effects gradually come into play. Su Jiqian felt warm in her body, and there was a slight itching sensation from the bleeding wound, which was a feeling of recovery. This is a real healing pill, not a soul-stealing pill. At this moment, Su Jiqian completely believed that the master had really fully recovered. When she thought about her master's recovery, she became extremely excited. At this time, Chen Yi activated his spiritual power, sat cross-legged behind the eldest disciple, stretched out a hand and placed it on the eldest disciple's white back. The girl's skin was white and soft, as if it would sink in if she stretched out her hand and grabbed it. However, even though the person sitting in front of him was a top beauty, Chen Yi did not have any evil thoughts at all. Instead, he used all the spiritual power in his body to pour it into the eldest disciple's dantian. The eldest disciple had just experienced a tough battle, and even used a method of losing his lifespan to escape. The spiritual power in his body had long been exhausted. Feeling the master's spiritual power slowly entering her dantian, a blush gradually appeared on Su Jiqian's face. The master has not had physical contact with her for a long time. Today, the master not only gently touched the top of her head, but also passed on his spiritual power to her. She used to think that it would be the best comfort for her if master could take one more look at her. This feeling of happiness now makes her feel like she is dreaming. Su Jiqian's breathing gradually became a little faster. Master's spiritual power was poured into her as if it were free of charge, causing her to feel a little swollen in her abdomen. She gasped for the fragrance and said softly, "Master, the dantian is full, almost overflowing." When Chen Yi heard the eldest disciple's words, the hand that conveyed spiritual power suddenly retracted. He had just started to control this body and was not quite used to it, so he accidentally transmitted too much spiritual power. Although this is his fault, disciple, as a master, the more I hear your words, the more I feel that something is wrong. It always feels a little strange. At this time, Chen Yi began to recall that his former disciple seemed to often say a lot of strange things like this. It's just that since my personality changed, I haven't heard her say it again. It was as if this eldest disciple knew something from birth, as if he was gifted. Ahem, my master, I'll take you back to rest first. Your injuries are a bit serious. But don't be afraid. These injuries are all my fault, and I will be responsible for them. Your injuries will be completely cured soon. Chen Xuanji said gently, and then a princess hugged the eldest disciple and walked towards the eldest disciple's house. Su Jiqian felt a sense of weightlessness and couldn't help but snorted. Ah! Chen Yi just picked her up, and when he heard her making this noise, he was stunned and immediately looked down. It doesn't matter if you don't look at it. If you take one look at it, you can hardly move your eyes away. Su Jiqian is wearing a dark purple long skirt. The long skirt is made of tulle, and the skin underneath is looming. Her lower body was not wearing pantyhose, and her slender and voluptuous legs were exposed to the air. Wearing brown breathable hollow high heels on her feet, her appearance is very eye-catching. What's even more unbearable is Su Jiqian's eyes, which are as charming as silk and can capture people's soul. Coupled with the unique charming fragrance on her body, Chen Yi blushed immediately and felt a little itchy in her heart, as if she couldn't control it. Chen Yi remembered that the previous host also had a similar system. It's just that it's different from his. These clothes seem to have been redeemed by the previous host in the system store. Chen Yi shook his head violently at this time to dissipate the unwanted thoughts in his heart. The eldest disciple has suffered so much with him these years, and he actually had that kind of thought in his heart just now. Even if you think about it, if the eldest disciple knew about it, he would definitely call him a perverted master. What Chen Yi didn't know was that Su Jiqian was extremely excited. Su Jiqian immediately became excited after seeing her master's fleeting shy look just now. Master must have seen her plump body just now, so he was shy. Master must be interested in her. If not, why would she be shy? Su Jiqian actually knew since she was a child that she seemed to be born with a strong attraction to the opposite gender, but she didn't know why, but it never worked for her master. But just now I took a look, and it doesn't seem to be useless at all. Thinking in her heart, Su Jiqian stretched out her hands and hugged the master's neck, snickering in her heart. Now that the master has recovered and seems to have no resistance to her mature body, her plan to overthrow the master must be put on the agenda. But it must be done step by step. She was worried that if she expressed her inner thoughts all at once, the master would not be able to accept it. If it has a negative effect, that's not good. Chen Yi just carried the eldest disciple back to the house, but the house was said to be a house, but in fact it was no different from a ruin. The old site of Profound Heaven sect had been completely destroyed in the war. Now he and his 2 disciples live in seclusion in the deep mountains and jungles, and the house is a temporary building, as simple and crude as possible. However, Chen Yi is not discouraged. He can exchange it for a newbie gift package in the system store. It contains a perfect sect. When he completes the task of comforting his 2 disciples, he can lead a good life with his 2 disciples. Chen Yi put the eldest disciple on the bed, stroked her forehead, and comforted. You're too tired. Take a rest first and then look for me as your teacher when you wake up. Master, let's go see how your junior sister is doing. Su Jiqian nodded slightly. Not long ago, Master asked junior sister to weaken the strength of Sanyuan sect. After junior sister failed, she was also severely beaten by Master. The current situation must be very miserable. If junior sister knows that Master has recovered, she will definitely be very happy. After Chen Yi comforted the eldest disciple, he opened the door and left. Standing at the door of the eldest disciple, Chen Yi let out a long sigh. For the second disciple, she felt no less guilty than the first disciple. Chen Yi's heart felt cramped again when he thought of the second disciple curled up on the bed with bruises all over his body after being tortured by him. Soon after, Chen Yi came to the door of the second disciple's room. After adjusting his condition, he pushed the door open and entered. The door of the room, squeaked, was pushed open. Chen Yi's eyes quickly swept across the room, but he did not see Lang Luoli's figure. Instead, there was another woman standing in the house, using a broom to clean the dusty floor. When the woman saw Chen Yi, she quickly put down the cleaning tool in her hand and saluted Chen Yi. "Disciple, I have met the master." In fact, Chen Yi not only adopted 2 direct disciples, he also adopted an elf woman. The woman in front of him was the one he adopted in the elf territory. This woman's name is Hujuyu, and she is the eldest princess of the elf clan. The elves are all handsome men and women, elegant and noble. Their appearance is the same as that of humans, except that their ears are a little sharp, and their lifespan is longer than that of ordinary humans. Although Hujuyu is an elf princess, she is born with wheat-colored skin and her eyes are different from others. She has double pupils, which is in sharp contrast to the other elves with white and smooth skin. The clan believed that her birth undermined the majesty of the Elf King clan and was an evil and ominous existence. She was also rejected by her sisters when she was born. When she was 16 years old, the elves kicked her out. She had been ostracized since she was a child, and her tribe did not accept her. Just when she was so desperate that she wanted to commit suicide, Chen Yi appeared and extended a helping hand to her. At the same time, he also told her that your pupils are beautiful. Hujuyu's talent is not outstanding, and compared with Chen Yi's 2 disciples, it is relatively poor. Therefore, even if Chen Yi wanted to train her into a direct disciple, he couldn't do it, so he simply placed her next to 2 direct disciples to take care of their daily lives. In fact, Chen Yi did this mainly because he wanted Hujuyu to study beside the 2 disciples. After all, the 2 disciples had nothing to take care of on weekdays. Hujuyu was very grateful to Chen Yi for taking her in. No one discriminated against her here. Even when Chen Yi faced her with average talent, he did not give up on her guidance and practice. It can be said that everything she has now is given by Chen Yi. Without Chen Yi, she would have died on the day she was abandoned by her tribe. So she had already made up her mind to stay with Chen Yi forever. Hujuyu was not at a high level, so it was impossible for her to withstand the torture of her previous host. If it weren't for the 2 disciples who looked after her, she might have died long ago. When he thought of this, Chen Yi blamed himself so much that he quickly leaned down and helped Hujuyu up. Hujuyu's skin is a healthy wheat color, and her ears are somewhat flat and elongated. As the eldest princess of the elf, she inherited the beauty that an elf should have. Her face was extremely delicate and impeccably beautiful, and her figure was comparable to that of the eldest disciple. She was wearing a maid outfit, with black stockings covering her legs that reached her thighs, and the top part of the black stockings sank into her flesh. However, Hujuyu's shoulders were covered with scars caused by Chen Yi's torture. As soon as Chen Yi put his hand on it, she couldn't help but tremble in pain. Upon seeing this, Chen Yi quickly relaxed his strength and looked slightly apologetic. Although he was very worried about Hujuyu's physical condition, the disappearance of the 2nd disciple made him even more anxious. The 2nd disciple was tortured by him not long ago. At this time, he should be too weak to get out of bed, so he should lie in bed and rest. Why is the person missing? Yue, where has Lang Luoli gone? Chen Yi asked her slightly anxiously. A bad premonition arose in his heart. Hujuyu saw her master gently helping her to stand up, with an eager look on her face, and she was in a trance for a moment. The master actually helped her up with his own hands, and judging from his expression, it seemed that he was very concerned about Lang Luoli's safety. This doesn't seem like something the previous owner would do. However, realizing that the master's sincere and gentle eyes were looking at her, she suddenly felt a little shy, her cheeks were a little red, and she replied with evasive eyes. Reply to the master. The 2nd senior sister is going to complete the task given by the master and steal the Sanyuan sect's treasure. While Hujuyu was speaking, her face unconsciously buried her face downwards, not daring to look directly into her master's eyes. Chen Yi felt sad for a while when he saw Hujuyu's evasive eyes and a somewhat frightened look. Hujuyu must have been scared before, so she was unconsciously afraid when she saw him. This was all caused by him, and from now on, he must undo it all. Thinking in his mind, Chen Yi first took out a pill from the storage ring and handed it to Hujuyu. This is a healing pill. You take it first. You and senior sister will rest here later. Be sure not to run around. Master, go and bring your second senior sister back safely. From today on, nothing can happen to any of the three of you. After Chen Yi handed the elixir to her hand, he gently touched the top of her head, and then hurriedly rushed out the door. Judging from the situation in the room just now, Lang Luoli should have left for a while. It must have been after he tortured the second disciple until he lost consciousness last time. As soon as the second disciple regained consciousness, he immediately dragged his seriously injured body to Sanyuan Sect to complete the task assigned by the master. Judging from the physical condition of the second disciple, let alone weakening the strength of Sanyuan Sect, it may be difficult for him to fight against monks of the same realm. When he thought that the second disciple might be in danger, Chen Yi's heart became anxious and he flew in the direction of Sanyuan Sect as fast as possible. At this time, Hu Juyu, who had just enjoyed the gentle touch of her master, was still half kneeling in place and did not get up. A rich blush appeared on her wheat-colored face, as if she had applied a layer of blush. A pair of jade hands held her delicate and flawless face. Hu Juyu, like the two disciples, has always had a strong admiration for Chen Yi. But in the past 3 years, the only time she had contact with her master was when he beat her. As a result, just now, when the owner opened the door to leave, he gently touched her forehead. This was simply beyond her endurance, and her brain immediately shut down. After a long time, she came back to her senses and realized something that shocked her. She held the healing pill given by her master and realized something. Has the master recovered? As soon as the idea came to her mind, she shook her head violently. The master has not changed for so many years, how could he suddenly change back today? But that gentle look just now actually happened in front of her eyes. Anyway, I'm not sure, let's take a look first. The camera turned, Sanyuan Sect, the periphery. It was evening at this time, and under the moonlight, a girl's eyes were extremely cold, and her cold temperament seemed to freeze everything around her. Beside her lay several miserable-looking corpses. The corpses had just died, and blood flowed from the wounds all the way to the girl's feet. Her toes were stained red with blood. That girl was Lang Luoli, who came to weaken the Sanyuan Sect in the name of her master. Her skin is cold white, and under the moonlight, it seems to be reflecting silvery white light. She is tall, well-proportioned, and has very beautiful facial features, but her expression is so cold that it makes people numb. Dare to look more. Lang Luoli's realm is only innate realm second layer. She said she came to weaken the Sanyuan Sect's strength, but she only dared to catch some Sanyuan Sect's outer disciples for a sneak attack. However, although the threat she poses is not great, it has indeed weakened the strength of Sanyuan Sect. Because of her existence, there are rumors among the monks that if you want to join the sect, you must not join Sanyuan Sect, because Sanyuan Sect, the outer disciples of the sect, generally did not survive more than 3 days. This also makes Sanyuan Sect unable to recruit new disciples for some days. But Lang Luoli's sneak attacks were not always successful. In front of her stood 2 elders of the Sanyuan Sect, both of whom were strong men in the Foundation establishment realm. Facing monks who were a whole level above her, she had no way of fighting back. Power. In the past, she might have been able to escape by consuming her lifespan, but she had just been tortured by her master and had just regained consciousness not long ago, so she really could not withstand such a consumption. The 2 Sanyuan Sect elders kept approaching Lang Luoli and said at the same time, "You little girl, you are easy for us to find. If we hadn't used these outer disciples as bait, we really wouldn't be able to catch you. You Profound Heaven Sect have been defeated a long time ago, and your good-for-nothing master is hiding somewhere. Why should a talented and intelligent monk like you still work for that good-for-nothing master? Why not come to our Sanyuan Sect? Our Sanyuan Sect will enshrine you as an elder, and you can escape from the control of your useless master, why not?" Lang Luoli's talent is one of the unique talents in the entire continent. No matter which sect he goes to, he will be worshipped as a guest. The treatment offered to the elders by Sanyuan Sect is a treatment that any genius will be jealous of if he hears it. As one of the most powerful sects in this continent, the Sanyuan Sect pays more generous tributes to its elders than the leaders of other small sects. When Lang Luoli heard the words of the 2 elders, she lowered her head coldly and clenched her fists. When the 2 elders saw her like this, they thought she was thinking about joining the Sanyuan Sect, and they immediately greeted her with smiles. Girl, don't think about it. That useless master can't give you anything. Why are you wasting your youth there? That's right, hurry up. Before the elder finished speaking, he saw Lang Luoli suddenly staring at him. His expression was so cold that even a monk at the foundation establishment level felt his spine go numb, and even the surrounding temperature seemed to have dropped a lot. Lang Luoli gritted her silver teeth in anger and shouted coldly. You are not allowed to insult master. In fact, like her senior sister, she has always had feelings for the master that she shouldn't have, and they are very strong. In her heart, master is everything to her. Anyone who insults master deserves to die. As soon as she finished speaking, the surrounding temperature suddenly began to drop, and the blood under her feet was solidified into ice. She stretched out her hand and formed multiple ice cones out of thin air. The ice cones looked like ordinary ice cubes, but in fact they contained powerful spiritual power, which could cause substantial damage even to monks. Lang Luoli is an ice monk who can use the vitality of heaven and earth to unleash his skills. Under her control, the ice pick suddenly shot towards the two elders. At the same time, she shouted, If you dare to insult master, go to hell, go to hell. Even Lang Luoli couldn't defeat the two elders when he was in his prime, let alone being too weak now. As soon as the ice pick hit the two elders, it was instantly smashed into pieces and turned into debris. The two elders just thought that Lang Luoli was considering his recruitment proposal, but they didn't expect that she was just accumulating strength to release an attack. Humph, you are so stubborn. Since we can't use it for ourselves, there's no need for us to hide it. Second brother, take away her good spiritual root, go back and refine the elixir, and each of us will get half of it. One of the elders said to the other elder. If people in this world want to practice, they must have spiritual roots, and spiritual roots are divided into 6th grade, with 1 being the lowest and 6th being the highest. Lang Luoli is the top 6th grade spiritual root. Only monks who practice the evil cultivator technique can use it to steal people's spiritual roots to refine elixirs. As a well-known and upright sect, Chuan sect will definitely lose its reputation if others know that the elders in the sect know this kind of technique. If the spiritual root is taken away directly, the person will die. What a pity. There's no one here. This girl was born so beautiful. Even if we were in high positions, we wouldn't be able to have such a good time. Why don't we capture her immediately, press her down, tear off her cold appearance, and have a good time before seizing her spiritual roots? Another elder said. Good suggestion. The colder her expression is, the more excited I am. When I peel off her skin, I'll see if she's still cold. Let's take action. The two elders quickly reached an agreement, and they spread their palms together and quickly grabbed Lang Luoli. Lang Luoli looked at the two people who were attacking her and wanted to pull away and run away, but the strong pressure of the foundation establishment stage shrouded her body, and she couldn't even stand up, let alone run away. Although she had always been against the Chuan sect, the monks would only die if they were defeated. Lang Luoli really did not expect that the elders of the Chuan sect could be so despicable. After hearing the conversation between the two of them just now, Lang Luoli's fists were clenched so tightly that they turned purple, and blood flowed out of her palms. Apart from master, she felt sick to her stomach at the thought of any man touching her. At this moment, Lang Luoli made up her mind. Since the master didn't pick the fruit she had been holding for her master, she had no choice but to destroy it here. When the two elders approached, she immediately used all her spiritual power to explode herself, giving them no chance to destroy the body. Although she was not afraid of death, she could not help but feel desolate in her heart at this time. After accompanying master for so long, I still haven't seen the day when master recovers. She didn't even have time to express her love to her master. If only she could see the gentle master once before she died. Even if it was just one look, she would be satisfied. As monks in the foundation building stage, the two elders were extremely fast and flew to Lang Luoli's eyes in the blink of an eye. The extremely old hands grabbed Lang Luoli's chest directly. At this moment, Lang Luoli also closed her eyes and began to use her whole body's spiritual power to prepare for self-destruction. But as soon as she activated her spiritual power, she suddenly found that her spiritual power was not in control. She suddenly felt confused, opened her eyes again and looked forward, and found that the two elders were motionless 1 meter in front of her. Just when she was even more confused, a warm touch suddenly came from the top of her head. She was very familiar with this touch. Even if she hadn't felt it for several years, she could still distinguish it immediately. Master, Master. Lang Luoli's voice was a little surprised, but at the same time a little ethereal. Chen Yi was behind her, holding her in his arms and stroking the top of her head. Just now, Chen Yi arrived in time and stopped Lang Luoli, who was about to self-destruct. At the same time, he also used the pressure of his divine treasure realm to control the two elders. At this time, Chen Yi looked at the second disciple in his arms tenderly. His heart was beating fast, and he felt a wave of fear in his heart. Just a second later, he was about to lose his second disciple who had always been loyal to him and had been with him for so many years. Then he will blame himself to death. Chen Yi stroked the second disciple's head and said softly, "It's okay, it's all over. My teacher has recovered now. I will compensate you for whatever I owed you." Ding, system mission. Comfort 2 disciples. Completed. The novice gift package has been distributed to the system space. Please sign for it. Chen Yi was slightly confused as he listened to the system's voice in his mind. He just said a few words to the second disciple, and the other disciple hasn't responded yet. Does this system have completed its task? Is this system accurate? In fact, what Chen Yi didn't know was that the moment Lang Luoli saw him, the task had been completed. In other words, even if Chen Yi doesn't say anything, as long as he appears here, Lang Luoli will forgive him for everything he has done, or that she has never held a grudge against the master. Master will always be perfect in her heart. The word delicate is rarely used for the frosty Lang Luoli, but at this moment she was like a delicate girl, throwing herself directly into the master's arms. She hugged Master tightly, and the moment she looked into Master's eyes, tears instantly flowed out. As soon as the tears flowed out, they turned into freezing point, fell to the ground, and broke into pieces. Lang Luoli sobbed and choked softly. "Master, Lear misses you so much. Lear thought she would never see you again. Lear almost died just now. No, am I already dead?" Lang Luoli enjoyed her master's warm embrace. Looking at her gentle expression, she suddenly felt as if she was in another world. She was tortured by Master not long ago and was on the verge of death. It had only been a few days and nothing happened. How could Master recover? Did she blow herself up just now, so is she in a fantasy world now? Lang Luoli stretched out her hand and touched her master's cheek. If this was really an illusion, she wanted to do something bolder. Feeling the second disciple touching his cheek, Chen Yi smiled and stretched out his hand, holding it on the back of her hand. He could feel that Lang Luoli's mood was not very stable, as if she was doubting whether she really existed. "It's true. Master Wei has really recovered," Chen Yi said softly. The moment Lang Luoli truly touched Master's cheek, she was really sure that Master really appeared beside her. Looking at the Master's gentle and handsome face, Lang Luoli's thoughts gradually drifted to the past. She still remembered the first time she saw her master, in a secret realm. It is said that there is a treasure in the secret realm, and the person who captures it can become a dragon. Lang Luoli, as one of the top geniuses in this continent, naturally participated in the competition for the secret realm at the first time. In the secret realm, she relied on her intelligence, talent, and strength to defeat a number of other contenders before winning the treasure. But at the same time, she herself was seriously injured, and the secret realm was full of dangers. It was impossible for her to get out alive with the treasure. At the critical moment, something even more desperate happened. She saw Chen Yi appearing with Su Jiqian. Lang Luoli thought that the two of them were also here to compete for the treasure. With her physical condition at the time, she could not defeat any monk who came, let alone Chen Yi, who was already a strong man in the divine treasure realm. Just when she closed her eyes in despair and waited for death to come, a warm hand touched the top of her head, and at the same time handed her a healing pill to help her heal. Afterwards, under the leadership of Chen Yi, she left the secret realm safely. Lang Luoli wanted to give up the treasure in the secret realm in return for saving her life, but Chen Yi didn't accept it. In fact, as a strong man in the divine treasure realm at that time, Chen Yi had countless treasures on his body. He appeared in that secret realm mainly to accompany Su Jiqian in training. Naturally, he was very interested in the so-called treasures, not interested. Lang Luoli was moved by Chen Yi's gentleness and decided to become his master after that. In fact, many things happened during this. In short, the three of them lived a very wonderful life. Of course, this beautiful life was shattered 3 years ago. Memories washed through Lang Luoli's mind over and over again at this time. Her tears turned into freezing points and kept flowing out from the corners of her eyes. She just hugged her master tightly, not wanting to let go for a moment. She had been following Master all these years, and even though she was beaten severely by Master all day long, she had never complained. She never blamed her master. She only felt that she was incompetent and could not help him steal the Sanyuan sect's treasure earlier. Although she still couldn't believe that her master had really recovered, even if it was only for this moment, she wanted to hold him and enjoy it for a while longer. Lang Luoli was wearing a blue gauze dress with white knee-high socks on her lower body. The girl's body temperature was transmitted through the gauze skirt. When Chen Yi saw the frost beauty lying in his arms acting coquettishly for a while, he felt distressed. He held her and let her vent her emotions. However, due to his posture, Chen Yi's hand just touched her white stockings, which made him feel a little shy for a moment. A blush gradually appeared on Chen Yi's face, and he shook his head violently to get rid of the bad thoughts. The second disciple needs comfort most now, but he turned red because of that kind of thing just now. If the second disciple knew about this, wouldn't he be called a perverted master? How are you going to see people after this? What Chen Yi didn't know was that Lang Luoli had always admired his handsome face and had long seen all his subtle changes. Lang Luoli felt a sense of surprise in her heart when she saw how her master was a little flustered because of shyness just now. The current master is actually shy. No matter how she hinted at the master before, the master would not give her any response. Since 3 years ago, she has not dared to reveal anything, otherwise she will be beaten severely. But just now, master, he was so shy just because he accidentally touched her there. It seems that master may have really recovered. And not only did he recover, he also recovered some of the emotions and desires that belong to men. I always feel that master is more handsome now than before. But since master likes it, she is actually willing to give him some other benefits. But not now. When Chen Yi saw that the second disciple in his arms had stopped crying and seemed to be thinking thoughtfully, he felt that her emotions had been vented for the time being and he was relieved. Chen Yi put one hand around her slender waist and said softly, "I'll take care of these two fools first, and then I'll take you back. For everything I have done to you over the years, I will compensate you for everything I owe you." Lang Luoli raised the corners of her mouth slightly when she heard her master's words. Master doesn't know yet, but actually she has never felt that master owed her. But now that the master has changed back and is better, then even if she makes the master misunderstand for a while, it actually doesn't matter. In the future, we might be able to take advantage of this master's feeling of being indebted to her and create opportunities. For example, master, you don't want your poor second disciple to be sad, right? Lang Luoli was born with a smart mind, but she just didn't use it in the right place at this time. Chen Yi hugged the second disciple at this time, and at the same time looked at the two Sanyuan sect elders in front of him with extremely cold eyes. When he arrived here just now, he heard the conversation between the two elders. The content is extremely disgusting. If he had come a little later, I'm afraid the second disciple's current fate would be unimaginable. What these two people did was unforgivable, and even Chen Yi felt that even killing them both would not be enough to satisfy his hatred. At this time, he even wanted to destroy the entire Sanyuan sect. Only in this way could he calm down his anger. In fact, Chen Yi has not yet discovered that part of his thinking has been affected by the previous host and this body. After all, those memories have indeed been transferred into his mind. Now he can only be extremely gentle to his own people. He will not hold back any incoming enemies or even those who offend him. He must pay it back 1,000 times 100 times. Thinking of this, Chen Yi opened his palms to the two elders in front of him, gathered spiritual power on his palms, and said coldly, "I never expected that the so-called upright monk sect, the Sanyuan sect, would be so full of chaos. Today, I will take the lives of you two first, and I will destroy your entire Sanyuan sect another day." As soon as Chen Yi finished speaking, his spiritual power turned into a shock wave, spurting out from his palm in an instant. The two elders were both monks in the foundation building stage. Faced with the coercive control of Chen Yi from the divine treasure realm, they were unable to even escape for a while. As the saying goes, a skinny camel is bigger than a horse. Chen Yi was once a leader in the same realm. Even if he has fallen to the divine treasure realm first layer, it is not something that two elders in the foundation building stage can fight against. The shock wave struck by Chen Yi quickly swallowed up the two elders, and the two elders turned into a puddle of mud in an instant. The shock wave struck by Chen Yi quickly swallowed up the two elders, and the two elders turned into a puddle of mud in an instant. In fact, what he just said about destroying the entire Sanyuan sect was not just talk, but he doesn't have the strength yet. Wait until you return to your peak state, then break through to the next level, and have absolute power. It's not too late to take action. Chen Yi finalized this idea in his mind. After completely eliminating the two Sanyuan sect elders, Chen Yi saw that the second disciple was in a very weak state, so he picked her up in a princess hug and flew towards their seclusion. After just comforting the second disciple and taking care of the two elders, Chen Yi didn't have time to check the novice gift package sent by the system. Now that he had some free time, Chen Yi said to the system in his heart, "Brother Tongzi, open the gift bag for me and let me see what's going on." Ding! The novice gift pack is open, and the rewards are as follows: a Chuan Palace, a top-grade spiritual root, a top-grade special physique, and 10,000 system points. Please check the personal panel for details. System detected that the host's life was unsatisfactory in the first half of his life, and specially gave the host a small invincible start. I wish the host a happy life. The system's voice sounded in Chen Yi's mind, and Chen Yi was slightly confused at this time. What does it mean to detect that his life was unsatisfactory in the first half of his life? Why do I always feel like I'm being ridiculed by the system? He had never been in love in the first half of his life, and was a bit timid and inferior. His youth was about immorality one after another. He fantasized about having a girl go shopping with him, but in fact, the reality was that he broke his parents' gold coins. Read this: a guy from a lousy junior college, after dawdling around in the class, has no ideals, no friends, is he just qualified to crawl into the sewer and be a rat, looking at the beautiful life outside the manhole cover? Isn't this very unsatisfactory? Woo woo woo. Chen Yi suddenly felt a little sad when he thought of this. At this time, Luoli, who was in his arms, saw the master's expression suddenly extremely sad, and her heart suddenly became worried. Why did master suddenly become sad? Although she didn't know why master was sad, Luoli felt that she should do something at this time. She stretched out her hands, first hugged the master's neck, and then gradually moved her lips tentatively towards him. Seeing that master didn't hide, she kissed him, her lips pressed against master's cheek. Then she lay next to the master's ear and said softly, "Lear doesn't know why master is sad, but if it's because of Lear and senior sister, or Hujuyu, then master doesn't have to be sad. Everyone hopes that master can be happy. If it's something else, you can also talk to Lear. Lear is very willing to listen to you." Chen Yi was just immersed in the sadness of another world and didn't notice the second disciple's movements. It wasn't until he was kissed on the cheek by the second disciple that he suddenly came back to his senses. When he came back to his senses, he looked at the extremely cold frost beauty in his arms, showing a completely different tender expression for him, and all the sadness in his heart dissipated in an instant. Let him let the past go. From now on, he will start a new life. Chen Yi smiled and shook his head at the second disciple, and then spent 1,000 system points to redeem a healing pill from the system store. The system introduction says that this healing elixir can cure all diseases, but I don't know if it's that amazing. If it is true, then the injuries of the two disciples and Hujuyu can all be recovered. If it is false, then even if Chen Yi searched the entire continent, he still found medicine that could heal all their old injuries. He said he was responsible, not just words. Thinking in his mind, Chen Yi took out the healing pill and handed it to the second disciple. "This is a healing pill. Try taking it." Because Luoli was holding her master's neck with both hands at this time and couldn't free her hands, she said with a wicked smile, "Master, please feed me, okay." Her delicate body was already very soft, and she looked at the master with the tender eyes of a woman. Anyone who saw that would feel pity for her. Chen Yi was no exception. When he heard the second disciple's request and looked at the second disciple's slightly opened soft lips, his heart beat wildly for a moment. He and Lang Luoli have a master-disciple relationship. Just now she was attacked by the second disciple, but now she is asked to feed the elixir with his own hands. This is a bit too ambiguous, isn't it? But if you think about it carefully, the second disciple can't spare any time now, and as the master, she feeds the disciple medicine to heal his injuries. This should be a normal thing, right? Yes, it's normal. Thinking of this, Chen Yi handed the elixir to the second disciple's mouth. But before he could withdraw his hand, the second disciple held him in his mouth. Master is feeding you medicine, why are you still taking it, master? Lang Luoli looked at the panic expression on her master's face and couldn't help but snicker in her heart. It seems that the current master has no resistance to her. She just used a little trick to make master blush, so how about other things? If this is the case, then she will not be polite in the future. Lang Luoli thought to herself. After the healing pill entered her mouth, it instantly melted and turned into nutrients, starting to nourish her whole body. After a while, all the wounds on her body, even the scars, began to glow with golden light. At the same time, every part of her internal organs, meridians and spiritual roots were being nourished. At this moment, she felt warm and extremely comfortable all over her body. After a while, the light gradually dissipated, and Lang Luoli looked at her body in surprise, her mouth wide open. All the scars on her body were repaired. Not only the scars on her skin, but also the hidden wounds left by Master's torture over the years and the internal injuries accumulated in her body have all disappeared without a trace. However, the realm has not returned to its previous state. After all, the realm has fallen, and she still needs to break through again. Master, what grade is this elixir of, and its effect is so miraculous? Lang Luoli looked at herself in surprise. It was almost impossible for her to recover from her hidden illness, but now she actually recovered. Does that mean that she can continue to follow Master's footsteps and become stronger as soon as possible so that she can be used by Master? Chen Yi heard her question and didn't know how to answer for a while. All elixirs, treasures, formations, and talismans in this world are divided into 5 levels: Immortal, Heaven, Earth, Mysterious, and Yellow. Immortal is the highest and Yellow is the lowest. Each is divided into 3 levels: Upper, Middle, and Lower. But the healing pill sent to her by the system only had the word, Unification, marked on it. Does that mean that the level of this elixir has exceeded the 5 levels of differentiation in this world, has crossed outside the 3 realms, and is no longer among the 5 elements? Thinking of this, Chen Yi replied, Ahem, you don't have to ask any more questions about how this came about. As for the level, let me call it the Unification level. Lang Luoli has always obeyed her master's advice. Since his master told her not to ask further questions, she will not continue to investigate. As long as master can recover and continue to live with her and everyone, it will be fine. Everything else doesn't matter. Thinking in her mind, she lay on her master's chest, feeling the warm embrace of the master and the unique and delicious fragrance of the master. An unparalleled sense of security filled her heart, and she fell asleep without even realizing it. Although all her injuries have recovered, her mental state is very tired. Over the years, her spirit has been tense all the time. She was either completing the impossible tasks assigned by her master, or taking care of her senior sister or Hujuyu who was seriously injured by his master, or she was being beaten herself. Now, she can finally sleep peacefully for a while. The girl's even breathing sounded, and she slept very soundly. After Chen Yi healed his second disciple, he also fed himself one to fully recover from his injuries. As a monk in the divine treasure realm, he can fly extremely fast and the scene under his feet changes rapidly. The place where Chen Yi and his disciples lived in seclusion was called Lingshu Mountain. Lingshu Mountain is a famous forbidden place in this continent. All kinds of powerful monsters live here. Monks below the foundation stage will only die if they step into it. The reason why the secluded place of Chen Yi and his friends was not invaded by monsters was because Chen Yi had released an isolation barrier around it so that ordinary monsters could not approach. Although Lingshu Mountain is surrounded by dangers, the scenery is particularly beautiful. The towering mountains are endless, and the mist is entangled in the mountains, just like a fairyland. After a while, Chen Yi returned to the secluded place with his second disciple in his arms. After Chen Yi landed on the ground, he first used his spiritual consciousness to check the condition of the eldest disciple. The eldest disciple is currently sleeping soundly, but his sleeping position is not very elegant. Her long, fair and beautiful legs were casually placed on the quilt, and her underwear was almost half exposed. When Chen Yi saw this scene, he quickly withdrew his consciousness. It was such a risk, it almost offended the eldest disciple. From now on, I will live with 3 disciples every day, so I should pay more attention to their privacy. How can you just release your spiritual consciousness and check it at will? How rude. If the disciples knew about it, they wouldn't call him a. Forget it, I'm done here, Chen Yi thought to himself, and he first carried the second disciple back to the room. The second disciple's room was the same as the first disciple's room. They were both shabby. A small bed, a wooden table and chair, and a simple dressing table were all the furnishings in the room. Chen Yi looked at the wooden basin half filled with water on the ground. It should be used by the second disciple to catch the rain from the leaking roof on rainy days. Looking at this scene, Chen Yi couldn't help but sigh again. The 2 disciples he has accepted are both excellent talents. They can enjoy VIP-level treatment wherever they go, and almost everything they ask for is given. As a result, she stayed with him these years and lived like a beggar. Chen Yi felt extremely guilty. He hugged the second disciple and gently placed him on the bed. He looked at the second disciple's beautiful sleeping face and couldn't help but feel a little lost. It has to be said that the second disciple, who has returned to a healthy state, is even more beautiful than before. It is no exaggeration to say that it has conquered the country and conquered the city. Chen Yi was a little worried. What if he didn't control himself in the future and had other ideas about the 3 of them? You have to hold on. Now that the second disciple's condition has stabilized, the first disciple will wait until she wakes up and hand her a healing pill and everything will be fine. But now there is another person Chen Yi is more worried about, that is Hu Juyu. Chen Yi extended a helping hand to Hu Juyu when she needed help the most, giving her hope of life. But after his temperament changed drastically 3 years ago, what he did to Hu Juyu undoubtedly destroyed Hu Juyu's yearning for life again. If Hu Juyu hadn't still held onto the idea that he would recover and the 2 disciples' careful care, he would have committed suicide again. When Chen Yi thought that he almost caused a good girl to commit suicide, he felt extremely uncomfortable. Without further delay, he planned to go to Hu Juyu's room first to check on her condition. But as soon as Chen Yi lifted his legs, he found someone hanging on his waist. The second disciple was sleeping deeply and was hugging his waist tightly. His face was rubbing against his body from time to time, and his saliva was drooling. At the same time, he was still talking vaguely in his sleep. Master, Master, you don't want to be discovered by senior sister, so just be obedient. The second disciple's sleeping appearance was completely different from her usual appearance. When she woke up, she was a frost beauty, but when she fell asleep, she became. Anyway, this contrast is a bit too cute. Chen Yi shouted in his heart, how could he have the nerve to leave? But having said that, second disciple, what kind of strange dream were you having? Chen Yi was embarrassed to leave for a while. After a long time, he found an opportunity and got out. He patted the saliva on his clothes, and then closed the door gently. Standing at the door of the second disciple's room, Chen Yi just happened to bump into Hu Juyu, who was washing clothes in the yard. In fact, as a monk in the divine treasure realm, Chen Yi can already do many things that ordinary people cannot understand. For example, he only needs to wave his hand to make dirty clothes clean. It's just that the previous host had a serious illness and had to torture Hu Juyu to wash his hands. Hu Juyu saw her master appear, quickly stood up, and was about to kneel in front of her master. At this time, she was not sure whether the master had really recovered, so she still did not forget the previous etiquette. Upon seeing this, Chen Yi quickly stepped forward, helped her up, held her hand at the same time, and said softly, "Yue, my teacher has recovered. When I see my teacher again in the future, I don't need to repeat the cumbersome etiquette. I don't care about this. You don't need to wash these clothes. From now on, I will personally guide you in your practice." Chen Yi used to be the sect leader of Profound Heaven Sect. While handling the sect's government affairs, he also needed to teach 2 direct disciples, so he didn't have enough time. That's why he didn't personally guide the talented Hu Juyu in her practice, but placed her next to 2 disciples. Now that the sect is gone and there are only 3 of them around, Chen Yi now has free time to personally guide Hu Juyu in his practice. Hu Juyu looked at Chen Yi's soft expression, and after hearing his words, the elf's beautiful face became dull for a moment. If she had not been able to confirm whether Chen Yi had really recovered before, now she could finally let go of what she had been holding on to. Her feelings for Chen Yi were actually no less than those of the 2 disciples, or even worse. It's just that she has always felt inferior to her wheat-colored skin and those weird eyes. When Chen Yi was still a gentle master, he often comforted her, which gradually eased her inferiority complex. But later, after Chen Yi's personality changed drastically, not only did he not comfort him, he even often insulted her with all kinds of disgusting words and wantonly insulted her. At that time, Hu Juyu looked at the most perfect existence in her heart, the existence that she almost regarded as the hope of life, turned into such a behavior and insulted her in every possible way. Her outlook on life almost collapsed. At night, when she was ready to commit suicide, when she thought of the once gentle Chen Yi, she couldn't do it. No, Chen Yi is not like this. If it were really Chen Yi, it would be impossible to say this to her. Something must have gone wrong with Chen Yi. Since she was once saved by Chen Yi's company, in return, she must also stay by Chen Yi's side. Use the way Chen Yi saved her to save each other. It was with this thought that Hu Juyu lived tenaciously until now. And her long-lasting companionship finally ushered in the dawn and saw hope. At this time, in order to prevent her from kneeling, Chen Yi kept holding her wrist. The 2 of them were close to each other. Coupled with that action, the scene suddenly seemed a bit ambiguous. Hu Juyu didn't dare to look directly into Chen Yi's eyes, even the gentle Chen Yi didn't dare to look. The low self-esteem accumulated over a long period of time is a kind of heart disease. Not only cannot it be cured by medicine, but it is also impossible to change it back in a short while. Chen Yi knew that Hu Juyu's current situation was all caused by him. He didn't know how to alleviate Hu Juyu's heartache. Maybe a warm hug could alleviate it some. Thinking in his heart, Chen Yi gently embraced her into his arms and held her tightly. The girl's soft body feels great to the touch, and the elf's skin is soft and smooth. Chen Yi just held her in his arms and felt a soft touch. Hu Juyu's body exudes the unique fragrance of elves, a kind of natural and beautiful fragrance, which makes people feel relaxed and happy. Hu Juyu, who learned that Chen Yi had recovered, did not burst into tears like the first and second disciples. On the contrary, she behaved extremely calmly. In fact, most people with heart disease are like this. They don't write too many emotions on their faces or show them to the outside, but it doesn't mean that they don't have anything on their mind. Some patients with extreme mental illness may appear to be just like ordinary people on the surface, but at some point they may behave in extremely extreme ways. Hu Juyu just responded to Chen Yi's hug, and kept leaning her delicate body against Chen Yi, enjoying the warm embrace. Chen Yi guessed right. This warm embrace was indeed the help she needed most at this time. Hu Juyu has never wanted to ask for anything extravagantly. All she lacks is a ray of warm sunshine that can shine on her body. And Chen Yi is the only one who can make her feel warm, the blazing sunshine. Chen Yi gently caressed the girl in his arms. After a long time, Hu Juyu raised her head. Those special eyes looked very beautiful under the moonlight. Hu Juyu hesitated for a moment, her eyes evaded, and she said softly, "Master, Master, I would like to call you Master, is that okay?" Hu Juyu likes the title Master very much, for no other reason than because this title can make her feel Chen Yi's presence at all times. At this time, Chen Yi exchanged another healing pill from the system store. He was about to hand it to her when he heard her words and replied, "If you like, you can call me Master whatever you want. By the way, take this elixir first so that your injury can be healed." Chen Yi handed the elixir to her and gently stroked the top of her head. Chapter 11. After Hu Juyu took the healing pill, she lay quietly in Chen Yi's arms. Chen Yi just hugged her and returned to the house where she lived. After gently placing her on the bed, he also covered her with a quilt. Presumably after taking this system of healing pills, Hu Juyu should be back to her original state soon. Before that, Hu Juyu needs a good rest. Uaa, take a good rest first and then go check on your senior sisters. Hu Juyu knew that the senior sisters also needed master's help. She nodded obediently and quietly closed her beautiful eyes. Well, the master must come back soon. Not long after she finished speaking, perhaps because of the fatigue accumulated over a long period of time, she quickly fell asleep. Chen Yi stood beside Hu Juyu's bed, looking at her sleeping face and smiling lightly. Seeing that she could recover, Chen Yi was completely relieved. Hu Juyu's sleeping posture was more honest and quieter than that of the first and second disciples, even in a semi-drowsy state. Hu Juyu was also the eldest princess of the elf clan. Although she was not popular since she was a child, she also experienced a lot of king clan etiquette training, which has long been engraved in her mind. After taking care of Hu Juyu, Chen Yi left the room. After gently closing the door, he stood at the door and thought for a while. After such a long time, the eldest disciple should have gone to sleep. However, regardless of whether he slept well or not, this system of healing pills that can cure all diseases must be delivered to the disciples' mouths as soon as possible. Among the three of them, only the eldest disciple has not taken it yet. Thinking in his mind, Chen Yi walked towards the eldest disciple's house. The rooms for the three of us were next to each other, so we arrived within a few steps. Standing in front of the eldest disciple's door, Chen Yi hesitated for a moment, and then knocked on the eldest disciple's door. The reason why he hesitated just now was because he was worried that her knocking on the door would wake up the sleeping eldest disciple. But if you just walk in without knocking, it wouldn't be good if you see something you shouldn't see. Anyway, let's knock on the door and ask. After Chen Yi knocked on the door for a long time, no sound came from inside the house, so Chen Yi lay on the door, intending to listen to what was going on inside. If the eldest disciple was still asleep, he could just go in and put the elixir into the eldest disciple's mouth, and then retreat quickly. He promises not to look at anything. Although Chen Yi had no other ideas, his action of lying down at the disciple's door and eavesdropping was a bit obscene. Fortunately, no one saw it, otherwise it would be a bad dish. Will definitely be scolded as. Okay, I can't say any more. Hearing the even breathing coming from inside the room, Chen Yi concluded that the eldest disciple must still be sleeping soundly, so he slowly opened the door. Su Jiqian had been with him in the past few years. Like the second disciple, she had hardly had a good rest. This rare sleep was a bit sound, which was understandable. Chen Yi didn't want to disturb the eldest disciple's rare rest, so he gently tiptoed towards the eldest disciple's bed. He looks very much like a crazy man who raided the boudoir of a beautiful woman at night. In order not to see the eldest disciple's more open sleeping posture, Chen Yi always blocked the bed with his hands to prevent offending the eldest disciple. This is not because Chen Yi is more upright, but mainly because the eldest disciple's charm is too outrageous. He was a little worried that if he saw the eldest disciple with his face open, he would do something bad. But Chen Yi didn't realize at this time that Su Jiqian had already opened one eye and watched him move slowly. In fact, she had already woken up when Chen Yi stepped into her room. Realizing that a man had entered the house, she originally thought of using her moves to fight him out. But after seeing clearly that it was Master, the corners of her mouth suddenly raised, and she quickly withdrew her spiritual power while continuing to pretend to be asleep. She wanted to see what Master was going to do if he didn't sleep in the middle of the night, didn't comfort junior sister and Hu Juyu, and came to her boudoir at night. Chen Yi didn't know that the eldest disciple was awake. He thought she was sleeping soundly. After tiptoeing to the eldest disciple's bedside, Chen Yi finally breathed a sigh of relief. If the eldest disciple discovers that he touched her while she was sleeping in the middle of the night, he really doesn't know how to explain it. Thinking in his mind, he exchanged a healing pill from the system store and got down to business. In order to give medicine to the eldest disciple, Chen Yi moved his hand that was blocking his eyes a little so that he could see the eldest disciple's face clearly. But as soon as he moved his hand away, Chen Yi saw the eldest disciple's beautiful sleeping face and felt his heart beating wildly for a moment. Although he has never touched a woman, he won't be able to hold back when he sees a beautiful woman's face, right? Chen Yi only felt a little surprised, but then he remembered that it seemed that the disciple he had accepted was not an ordinary demon race. He vaguely remembered that when he adopted Su Jiqian, the demon race patriarch specifically told him that his daughter was a succubus. Moreover, the leader of demon race specifically told Chenyi that when his daughter grows up, if Chenyi can't help but want to pick it, then even if he, as a father, allows it. Chenyi suddenly came back to his senses. What was he thinking just now? The succubus itself has an aura, which will have a certain impact on the surrounding opposite gender, and the succubus itself can also control the affected people. The reason why Chenyi was absent-minded just now was actually Su Jiqian's deliberate act. It's just that Chenyi is still a monk in the divine treasure realm after all, and he relied on his own will to offset it. Su Jiqian felt that her plan had failed and couldn't help but think in her heart. As expected of Master, the charm has been neutralized. Hehe. When Kyaner breaks through to the foundation building stage, let's see if Master can offset it. After Chenyi offset the distracting thoughts in his mind, he took the healing pill and gradually moved it towards the eldest disciple's mouth. At this time, the problem arises. The disciple sleeps with his mouth closed, so the pill cannot be inserted. There was no other way, so Chenyi had no choice but to take the elixir and rub it against the eldest disciple's mouth to see if he could feed it in. The eldest disciple is sleeping so deeply, he shouldn't wake up, right? Chenyi didn't know that the eldest disciple had woken up long ago and was just pretending to sleep with his eyes closed. At this time, Su Jiqian felt a round thing beside her mouth, which was slowly rubbing her lips. The touch was extremely strange. Master, what are you doing? Did he stay up in the middle of the night just to touch her lips? Su Jiqian obviously misunderstood the situation at hand, but she didn't dare to really wake up. What if she wakes up and scares the master who attacks her at night? What should she do if the master doesn't come back in the future? Just keep pretending to sleep. But in order to cater to the master, she slowly opened her mouth a slit. Chenyi finally breathed a sigh of relief when he saw the eldest disciple finally opened his mouth. After slowly putting the elixir in, Chenyi pretended to wipe the sweat from his head. Finally got it done. The eldest disciple must have been exhausted, and he didn't even wake up despite being so disturbed. Now that the matter is done, I won't disturb the eldest disciple's sleep. Thinking in his heart, Chenyi helped the eldest disciple to cover himself with a quilt, then slowly opened the door and left. In Su Jiqian's room, she finally opened her eyes after feeling her master leaving. Looking at the quilt that had been covered on her body, she smiled and felt warm in her heart. The master was really gentle and didn't forget to cover her with the quilt when he left. It's just that she is a little confused now. The master seemed to have put something into her mouth just now, and then the thing melted into her mouth. Obviously, master didn't come here for anything else. But what exactly did master feed her? As soon as this doubt arose in her mind, every damaged skin on her body began to shine with golden light. After a while, she was completely back to normal. Su Jiqian stretched out her hand and saw that her skin, which was once covered with scars, had now returned to flawless skin. She was extremely shocked. Master was he worried about her, so he came over to feed her the elixir. This elixir is so effective and can cure all diseases. I'm afraid this is at least a heaven-level elixir. In their heyday, profound heaven sect, the number of heaven-level elixirs in the sect could be counted on one hand. How did master get the one in her mouth just now? When she thought of this, she was extremely shocked. The master actually paid so much for her and was so gentle. In order not to wake her up to rest, he even secretly fed her pills in the middle of the night. The current master is so great. I like, sicky. She hugged the quilt and rolled crazily on the bed, and fell asleep again after a long time. At this time, Chenyi was standing in the deserted courtyard. The three women were all resting. His mission was finally completed, and he could finally let go of his tense nerves. Chenyi looked at the dilapidated little yard and then remembered that there seemed to be a Chuan Palace in the novice gift package given by the system. The name sounds awesome, but I don't know what it's actually like. Thinking in his mind, Chenyi redeemed Chuan Palace from the system space. As soon as he clicked on the exchange, he suddenly felt that his eyes were shrouded in a burst of golden light, and he could not see anything clearly. Soon after, the golden light dissipated, and he could see the scene in front of him clearly again, and his eyes widened. The place is still the same place, but the whole scene has changed. The dilapidated house where the three girls once lived has now been turned into three luxuriously decorated bedrooms. The dirt floor under their feet has also turned into a stone tile floor. The house where he lives has become even more. A huge hall. The main hall occupies a very large area, and the golden tiles on the top seem to be shining with golden light, exuding ultimate majesty all the time. And there are many different buildings around, such as indoor hot springs, practice rooms, kitchens, vegetable gardens, etc. Everything is available. What's even more outrageous is that since the Chuan Palace appeared, the surrounding spiritual power seems to have risen by several levels, as if a spirit gathering array has been set up. What's even more outrageous is that since the Chuan Palace appeared, the surrounding spiritual power seems to have risen by several levels, as if a spirit gathering array has been set up. Chen Yi released his spiritual consciousness and checked his surroundings. He found that a large area around Chuan Palace seemed to be restricted. All the monsters in Lingshu Mountain could not get close, and a safe zone was formed around it. In other words, the monsters formed a natural barrier, preventing outsiders from approaching, and this place almost became their own world. When everyone wakes up, their jaws will definitely drop when they see this scene. Chen Yi said with a smile. After placing the Chuan Palace, Chen Yi remembered that the system also gifted him with top-quality spiritual roots and talents, so he thought about opening the system panel to take a look. Host: Chen Yi. Race: Human. Realm: Divine Treasure Realm First Layer. Kung Fu Practiced: None. Lingen. Brother Ni Tong's genuine co-branded Spirit Root 2.0 Plus produced by the system. Special Physique: Ultimate Invincible Super Abnormal Physique produced by the system. System Points: 7,000. System Comment: The first half of your life was unsatisfactory. Worried about still doing nothing after transmigrate. It doesn't matter, the system will always arrive late. You will be given a small invincible start. Please check the specific strength by the host. Chen Yi looked at the system panel in front of him, and the corners of his mouth began to twitch. Please, do you want your spiritual root name to be so earthy? And why do I think it looks so familiar? Forget it, I don't want to think about this anymore. Since the system said it would give me the little invincible to start, I'd better try my strength first. Chen Yi thought to himself and quickly released his consciousness. He had not released his spiritual consciousness on a large scale before, and had not noticed any changes in himself. Only when he released it this time did he realize that the area covered by his spiritual consciousness was dozens of times, hundreds of times larger than before. The entire Lingshu Mountain is within the coverage of his spiritual consciousness, and no disturbance can escape his eyes. Soon, his consciousness found a monster king from Violet Palace Realm First Layer in Lingshu Mountain. Since the system says that he is currently in a small invincible state, he will first challenge a monster king to test his strength. Thinking in his mind, Chen Yi jumped into the air, and after a while, he appeared above the monster king's lair. The monster king in this Violet Palace Realm First Layer world is a giant white tiger. When Chen Yi arrived, he happened to encounter her competing for territory with the Toad Monster King in the Violet Palace Realm Second Layer world. Chen Yi looked down and found that his original target, the Monster King, had been seriously injured by another Monster King. Since he no longer has the ability to resist, I am afraid that even if he is beaten to death, it will not be of reference value. Chen Yi simply changed his target and attacked the Toad Monster King in Violet Palace Realm Second Layer. Chen Yi actually practiced Kung Fu himself, but for some unknown reason, it was not displayed on the system panel. Maybe in the eyes of the system, the grade is too low and has no reference value. Chen Yi gathered all his spiritual power on his right palm, and in an instant infinite spiritual power surged out of his body. This is the first time he has officially taken action since Transmigrate came over. According to his memory, although he was not weak in the past, he definitely did not have as much spiritual power in his body as he does now. Moreover, the spiritual power now is even stronger and stronger than before. Realizing his current changes, Chen Yi couldn't help but smile, and at the same time clapped his palm, and the wind of his palm went straight to the Monster King in the Violet Palace Realm Second Layer sky. The Toad Monster King was closing in on the giant Tiger Monster King step by step, preparing to swallow it, but did not notice Chen Yi's appearance. But the moment Chen Yi's palm blow came out, it suddenly felt that there was unparalleled powerful pressure around it, suppressing it, making it unable to move. The Toad Monster King's face is full of horror. It has been practicing in the Lingshu mountain for tens of thousands of years and has just reached the Violet Palace realm. It has never seen any coercion, and it can't move even if it can be suppressed. What on earth is going on? Although it was extremely puzzled, Chen Yi's palm wind did not give it a chance to breathe, and hit it directly. The Toad Monster King was directly deflated and penetrated by the wind of the palm, and was instantly reduced to ashes. But the palm wind did not stop. It shot directly into the ground, and with a bang, cracks like spider webs burst out of the ground, and the cracks continued to extend, like the Grand Canyon. At the same time, earthquakes were also triggered, countless tall trees collapsed, and birds and beasts were scattered, as if the end of the world was coming. Chen Yi looked at his palm with shock, and then looked at the scene below. The hell did he type this? The system sincerely does not deceive me. The Monster King from the Violet Palace realm's second layer who was directly shot to death by him just now, if compared to the human monks, is at least as good as the monks from the Violet Palace realm's sixth layer and above. And in this continent, among the several major sects, the leader of Sanyuan sect only has the strength of Divine Treasure realm fifth layer. If the person he hit with that palm just now was the leader of the Sanyuan sect, wouldn't it mean that he was completely destroyed to pieces? The most important thing is that Chen Yi hasn't used all his strength yet. If he hits a palm with all his strength, he can't even imagine the destructive power. At this time, Chen Yi took a deep breath. After learning about his current strength, his smile became even brighter. With such strength, he should be able to protect them. At least in this continent, Chen Yi could no longer imagine anyone who could catch his palm. However, to be on the safe side, it is still necessary to train 2 disciples quickly, including Hu Juyu. After all, if Chen Yi wants to continue to improve his strength, he must obtain system points from them to exchange for cultivation. Thinking in his heart, Chen Yi hurried towards home, not knowing if everyone woke up. At the same time, the giant white tiger monster king in the sky looked at Chen Yi who was gradually flying away in the sky, his eyes full of gratitude. Although it didn't know why Chen Yi helped it defeat the Monster King, a toad that came to compete for territory, it knew that if Chen Yi hadn't appeared, it would definitely be dead by now. This human kindness must be remembered. Looking at the direction in which Chen Yi disappeared, it silently recorded Chen Yi's appearance in its heart. When it recovers from its injuries, it should be able to repay the favor. Tianshuan Hall, above the square. Su Jiqian was woken up once by her master. She was not sleeping well at first, and because of the earthquake just now, she woke up. She opened her eyes drowsily and looked at the scene in front of her. She was a little lost for a moment. She rubbed her eyes first, and then she exclaimed, "Where is this? I transmigrate." She was supposed to wake up in a shabby wooden house, but why did she suddenly wake up in a luxuriously decorated bedroom? She was supposed to wake up in a shabby wooden house, but why did she suddenly wake up in a luxuriously decorated bedroom? Su Jiqian's face was full of disbelief. She planned to change her clothes and go out to take a look, so she opened the wardrobe. As a result, the wardrobe is filled with all kinds of clothes, including sect costumes, aristocratic decorations, and even products that are a perfect combination of modern textile technology and ancient aesthetics. After Su Jiqian put on new clothes, she quickly opened the door. When she came to the square and saw the scene in front of her, she became even more convinced that she had transmigrated. But these are not important, she is more worried about whether the master will transmigrate together. If there was no master in this world, she wouldn't be able to survive at all. Just when she had mixed feelings in her heart, Chen Yi slowly flew from the sky. Chen Yi looked at the anxious eldest disciple, then quickly landed in front of her, and greeted with a smile. "You're awake, do you feel better?" Su Jiqian looked at the master who appeared, and before she could say anything, she took 3 steps and then 2 steps, rushed over, and hugged the master's back tightly. Seeing the eldest disciple's reaction, Chen Yi thought that she had not recovered from her injuries, so he quickly asked with concern. "Kaianer, do you feel uncomfortable somewhere? You can talk to the teacher, and the teacher will find a solution." Su Jiqian buried her face in Master's arms. After enjoying enough of Master's breath, she raised her head again, shook her head and said, "No, I feel very good, disciple. I have never felt more relaxed. It's just that the disciple just thought that the master has disappeared. The disciple is so afraid that the master will leave." Her voice was soft and charming at the same time. Chen Yi looked at the delicate body in his arms and listened to her slightly charming words, and felt a tingling sensation in his heart. What on earth does this great disciple do? A word seems to be able to draw away his soul. The key disciple's words are not false, they are revealed with true feelings. In this case, it will be more offensive. Chen Yi felt that his heartbeat was a little faster. He subconsciously touched her back and replied seriously. No matter what happens, I will never leave you. When Su Jiqian heard the master's words, the corners of her mouth slightly raised, her fox eyes looked at the master, as if they were being discharged, and she said coquettishly. Master promises this disciple. Chen Yi smiled and replied seriously, I promise you, my teacher. When he spoke, he didn't think too much. After all, he owed his eldest disciple so much over the years, and it was normal to spend more time with him. But after he came back to his senses and carefully tasted first grade, he felt that the conversation between the two was a bit ambiguous. This is not something that should be said between master and disciple. Chen Yi realized that the scene was a bit ambiguous. When he remembered that he had raided the eldest disciple's boudoir at night not long ago, he suddenly felt something strange in his heart and subconsciously wanted to push her away. I'm afraid something will happen if I hold her like this. As a master, how could he have other thoughts about his eldest disciple? Su Jiqian had already seen Master's reaction in her eyes, and she looked at Master with a mischievous smile. This is an excellent opportunity. If it succeeds, you might be able to win one. As she thought to herself, the pupils in her eyes suddenly changed color, releasing the succubus's charm. As an invincible being in this continent, Chen Yi can naturally easily disintegrate the charm of a succubus who has not yet reached the foundation building stage. But that also depends on the fact that Chen Yi himself is defensive. He has never been defensive about his eldest disciple, and he really allowed the eldest disciple's charm technique to take effect. As for the eldest disciple's charm technique that was not successful when he was in the eldest disciple's room before, that was because the two of them were not in direct contact, so the effect was average. As the charm technique took effect, Chen Yi felt a strong flame burning in his heart, and couldn't help but hug the delicate body in his arms. Then the lips slowly moved towards her. Su Jiqian also felt a little surprised when she looked at the master who suddenly attacked. She was not yet proficient in the use of charm. She had only used it on her master, and did not expect it to be successful. Realizing that her skills worked, Su Jiqian was extremely excited. She held Master's face and went directly to meet him. Chen Yi only felt a fragrance unique to a girl coming from his lips. Su Jiqian's plump legs covered in black stockings subconsciously closed together, her body temperature gradually increased, and her hands holding the master became tighter. 10 minutes later, only then did Chen Yi get out of the charm technique. Looking at the eldest disciple who was being kissed by him, he felt his heart beating wildly. He didn't know what happened just now, but he couldn't hold back and did that kind of thing to the eldest disciple. If he has offended the eldest disciple in this way, how will he get along with him in the future? At this time, Chen Yi still didn't know that the reason why he had that reaction just now was because he had been charmed by the first disciple. After regaining his sense, Chen Yi's first reaction was to apologize to his eldest disciple. Kaianer, I'm sorry, my teacher just. Before he finished speaking, Su Jiqian tapped his lips with her jade finger, and said with a sweet smile. Shish, master, you don't need to apologize. In fact, I really enjoyed doing what you just did. Let's go inside and continue. Su Jiqian licked her lips and felt the master's scent still lingering around her, and her delicate body began to feel hot. Su Jiqian held Master's hand and wanted to take him back to the room. At this time, Chen Yi was a little confused and did not react for a while from the eldest disciple's words. He just forcibly kissed the eldest disciple. Shouldn't the eldest disciple cry and fall out with him? Because according to the customs of this world, a woman who has kissed a man cannot marry. But looking at the eldest disciple's reaction just now, not only did he not blame him, but he was actually enjoying it, and he even felt like his conspiracy had succeeded. Did he read that correctly? Chen Yi held the eldest disciple's hand and was about to be pulled into the room. Chen Yi's body was also a little hot at this time, because his mouth was still filled with the aroma of the disciple, and the succubus, saliva had a strange effect. Su Jiqian held Master's hand and was about to open the door, but just when her plan was about to succeed, she suddenly heard a female voice coming from behind her. Lang Luoli rubbed her eyes and walked out of the house. She was wearing an ice blue gauze dress, and her whole butterfly back and white skin around her collarbone were all exposed. The lower body is not wearing pantyhose, and the white and well-proportioned slender legs are exposed wantonly in the air. Seeing master and senior sister together, she subconsciously said hello. Hey, good morning, master and senior sister. When Chen Yi saw the second disciple appearing, he felt something bad in his heart. The way he is holding hands with the eldest disciple is very ambiguous. If the second disciple knew what he had just done to Su Jiqian, how would he face everyone? Su Jiqian watched her junior sister appear and interrupt her good deeds. She forced a smile on her lips and responded, "Ahaha, good morning, junior sister." She said this, but in fact she wished she could tie her junior sister back to the house and let her sleep for a few more hours. Lang Luoli woke up from her stupor. She looked at the scene in front of her. Her first reaction was not that she was surprised because the scene and building had changed. What surprised her was that even if the master and senior sister were together, why were they still holding hands? What's even more outrageous is that it's as if there's something on their minds hidden in their expressions. She quickly stepped forward and looked at their faces as if examining them. Chen Yi was a little flustered by being stared at by the second disciple. It's not because he was timid, it was mainly because he really did something he shouldn't have done. Lang Luoli was talented, not just in terms of cultivation talent. Seeing the guilty look on her master's face, she was even more sure of her thoughts. Master must have done that kind of thing with senior sister just now. As for how far she had gone, she didn't know. And just when she was guessing in her mind, she suddenly saw several damaged holes in the stockings on her senior sister's legs. It was accidentally broken by Chen Yi when he was kissing the first disciple. Lang Luoli looked at this scene and was shocked. Master and senior sister have actually achieved that step just now. She was so asleep that she didn't even notice. Lang Luoli looked at her senior sister with a dissatisfied look on her face. She clearly promised fair competition, how could you do it secretly? In fact, as early as 3 years ago, the two disciples knew that each other had thoughts about their master. However, considering that the two of them have a good relationship and are good sisters who talk about everything, and they are both good disciples of the master, although they were surprised when they learned that they both had thoughts about the master, they still in the end, I had to compromise. After discussion, they made an agreement that they could only compete fairly and not harm the harmony. But later, the master's temperament changed drastically, and the rules had to be abandoned. Now that master has recovered, this rule must be implemented again. Seeing the jealous expression on her junior sister's face, Su Jiqian felt funny in her heart and couldn't help teasing. Ah, junior sister, why did you get up so early? Didn't you sleep a little longer? The implication is, junior sister, if you take a nap, master will be captured by me. How could Lang Luoli not know the implication of the senior sister's words? She stamped her feet angrily. She hugged master's other arm tightly with both hands, looked at master with pitiful eyes, and said softly, "Master, Lear felt unwell last night and didn't sleep well. Can you help Lear take a look?" Lang Luoli breathed fragrance into Chen Yi's chest, and the girl's warm breath hit Chen Yi's chest, making Chen Yi's heart itch. Chen Yi looked at the frosty beauty whose appearance was unapproachable to anyone, acting coquettishly in his arms, and a blush appeared on his cheeks just now. But how could he remember that when he was taking care of the second disciple last night, the second disciple slept so comfortably that he talked in his sleep? Forget it, no matter what, since the second disciple said he was feeling unwell, he couldn't be careless. Chen Yi thought in his heart and replied, "Then my master will release a trace of spiritual power and enter your body to check if there are any bruises on your body. Be prepared." Lang Luoli nodded, her eyes full of longing, and replied softly, "Well, Lear is ready. Lear wants master's spiritual power. Give it to Lear quickly." When Chen Yi heard what the second disciple said, his hand that was about to release his spiritual power suddenly stopped. "Come on, what terrible things are you saying? It's okay for the eldest disciple to say some strange things. After all, he is a succubus and may be born with some talent. Why are you like this too?" Maybe the second disciple didn't have any other ideas. It was just that his master had dirty ideas and misinterpreted normal words. Chen Yi thought to himself, and then he penetrated the spiritual power into the second disciple's body. Su Jiqian on the side looked at the master who was kept in the dark and couldn't help but smile helplessly. She knows her junior sister's situation better than anyone else. She did it on purpose. It was probably because the junior sister found out that she was eating secretly and got jealous. But no matter how powerful the tactics of the junior sister are, they can't be compared to her, a natural succubus. After Chen Yi quickly checked the condition of Lang Luoli's body, he said seriously. Your body is very healthy. If you feel uncomfortable, it may be psychological. If you want to find someone to talk to, you can come to me at any time. Even though Chen Yi didn't find any illness after checking the second disciple's body, he still didn't mean to be careless. Since the second disciple said that he was not feeling well, there must be something wrong with him. Mental illness can be considered a disease. He must always pay attention to the condition of his disciples. This can be considered as compensation for everyone. Lang Luoli was so moved when she heard her master's gentle words. She originally thought that the master would punish her for talking nonsense after finding out that she was not sick. Lang Luoli thought that the master would punish her for talking nonsense after finding out that she was not sick. Unexpectedly, instead of blaming her, master became more concerned about her physical condition. Now master has not only become gentler, but also more attentive. She loves the current master so much. Thinking in her heart, Lang Luoli hugged master's arm with a smile, and kept rubbing into master's arms, enjoying master's temperature and smell. I like master the most. Su Jiqian on the side looked at her junior sister's movements and pursed her lips in jealousy. She grabbed the master's other arm, pushed her chest upwards, showing her majesty, and directly wrapped the master's arm. Compared with her senior sister, Lang Luoli's figure is much slimmer. All parts of her body are relatively well proportioned, and she is a refreshing beauty type. She looked at her senior sister's deliberately puffed up chest, and then at her own, and she suddenly felt a sense of frustration. The two women looked at each other in the air, and there seemed to be electric sparks in their eyes, and the smell of gunpowder filled the air. At this moment, Chen Yi, who was caught in the middle, blushed and looked at the peak of Su Jiqian's bust on the left and the soft skin of the girl Lang Luoli on the right. The fragrance of the delicate bodies of the two beauties came, making him unable to move at all. Well, he was planning to guide everyone in their practice today, but why has it turned into this scene now? Chen Yi coughed twice, interrupted the two of them, and said, Ahem, I feel so energetic this morning. It seems that my body has really returned to a healthy state. Today I will resume my guidance on your cultivation. I have 2 books of exercises here. You should keep them first. Chen Yi quickly changed the topic and at the same time redeemed 2 exercises from the system store. These exercises are all tailor-made by the system according to the disciples' current physical condition and which exercises are suitable for them to practice. All the levels are Tong level. According to the system, the unified level has surpassed the current highest immortal level in the world. These 2 skills should be very powerful. After Chen Yi exchanged the exercises, the knowledge of the 2 exercises was directly integrated into his mind. At the same time, he was surprised to find that he had mastered all the moves in these 2 techniques and reached the realm of great accomplishment. Brother Tongzi is still awesome, this top talent is not given in vain. After Chen Yi sighed in his heart, he first took out the demon soul art practiced by Su Jiqian from the system space. This is a book of exercises suitable for demon race practice. As soon as this exercise was taken out, the surroundings seemed to be shrouded in a layer of haze, with a sky-high evil spirit permeating the surroundings. Just putting this exercise here, it will give people a chilling feeling. Su Jiqian was originally a little curious about what kind of skills the master would give her, but when she saw the demon soul art in the master's hand, she was immediately attracted. It was as if the technique was tailor-made for her and had a strong appeal. Chen Yi handed the technique over and said, "This technique is very powerful. As long as you practice it seriously, it won't be a problem to cross a large realm to fight against the enemy." Chen Yi has already understood the great accomplishment of this technique, so he naturally knows how powerful this technique is. In this continent, the most powerful techniques are only around the Zan level, and this technique has already reached the immortal level, which is a full 4 steps away. In addition, this is a technique tailor-made for the great disciple. If you practice it with concentration, its strength will be immeasurable. Su Jiqian looked at this technique, and her breathing was a little short of excitement. If she is really as powerful as Master said, as long as she practices seriously, will she be able to help Master soon? She was extremely excited at the thought of being able to share her master's worries. Su Jiqian stood up on her tiptoes and gave her master a sip on her handsome cheek. She then took over the technique and said with a sweet smile, "Thank you, Master, I like you the most." Chen Yi was attacked by the disciple's kiss, and his expression was a little surprised. I didn't expect that sending the exercises to the eldest disciple would bring such benefits. Thinking in his mind, Chen Yi took out the Bingxinju practiced by Lang Luoli from the system space. This technique is based on ice elements, and when practiced to the great accomplishment, it can freeze a continent or even a whole world. As soon as the technique was taken out, the surrounding temperature dropped a lot. The whole body of the technique was emitting blue light, and a trace of cold air drifted from it. Chen Yi handed the technique to the second disciple, wondering if the second disciple would also receive benefits. Although he knew it was not good to think so, he still had a little expectation in his heart. Why? What a perverted master! Just when he was thinking about it, before the technique was handed over to the second disciple, Chen Yi saw a beautiful face coming towards him in his sight. Before he could react, he felt a softness on his lips. Lang Luoli learned that her master and senior sister had just done something here, and that the senior sister had even kissed her master on the cheek in front of her just now. She could no longer hold it in any longer. He didn't care whether the senior sister was there or not, and kissed her directly. She hugged the master tightly with her arms, enjoying the warmth and taste of the master wantonly. Chen Yi subconsciously wanted to push away the second disciple. Although he had a little expectation in his heart, he couldn't really do such a thing in front of the first disciple. But as soon as he exerted force, his hand softened, and instead he subconsciously grabbed the second disciple's beautiful back. My heart said no, but my body was very honest. Su Jiqian on the side looked at the junior sister who suddenly took action, and was slightly surprised. She also didn't expect that junior sister would be so bold and dare to do it in front of her. Although the two of them knew each other well, at least they had to carry someone behind their backs. Hello, junior sister. However, although Su Jiqian was a little dissatisfied, she did not step forward to stop it. After all, she did tell her junior sister that she wanted to compete fairly with the master. She had already eaten it secretly just now. If she was trying to stop him, it would be a bit unjustifiable. And as a senior sister, she has to be more generous, right? After about a few minutes, Su Jiqian finally couldn't bear it anymore. Junior sister, are you still finished? Senior sister is still here, it's almost done. Ahem, oh, Uaa is awake. Su Jiqian cleared her throat, looked at Hu Juyu who had just walked out of the room, and spoke loudly on purpose. After Lang Luoli heard what her senior sister said, she reluctantly let go of her master. Her soft and delicate body was a little hot at this time, and her snow-white skin seemed to be covered with a red filter. She held the exercises given by her master in her hands and said with a smile, "Thank you master for your skills. When Lear can practice the skills to the great accomplishment, she will be able to stay with master forever." Lang Luoli is one of the most famous geniuses in this continent, but her life experience is a bit miserable. Her parents died shortly after giving birth to her, and she was sent to many families. However, she was gifted since she was a child, and it was obvious that all the families who adopted her were eager to get something from her. Her innate 6th grade ice spiritual root is something that makes everyone jealous. The families who adopted her waited for her to grow up and took away her mature spiritual root for their own use. Therefore, when she was a teenager, she left her home that was not hers alone and wandered around the mainland. She participated in the secret realm, competed for treasures, and fought against geniuses from all walks of life. She wanted to become strong enough to protect herself. After that, she met Chen Yi by chance in a secret realm. At first, she was moved by Chen Yi's gentleness and became her teacher, hoping to pursue the further perfection of martial Tao. But at the same time, when she first met Master, she still had a strong sense of caution in her heart. She was worried that the Master was being so gentle to her on purpose just to take away her spiritual roots. But as time passed, she gradually integrated into the family. The master never asked for anything from her. He always protected her from bullying and taught her how to practice. Master is the only person in her life who treats her sincerely, which is why when she grows up, she still clings to Master and loves her so much. Perhaps she once practiced to pursue the ultimate in martial Tao, but now she practices to be able to stay with her master forever. At this time, Chen Yi licked his lips, and the girl's fragrance still filled his mouth, refreshing. When he kissed the eldest disciple before, he was the one who took the initiative and it was his fault. But the scene just now was posted by the second disciple on his own initiative. Could it be that the second disciple had more than just the friendship between master and disciple towards him, but also had other feelings for him? However, when Chen Yi accepted the second disciple as his disciple, the second disciple was still young, so he probably had no other education. Maybe the kiss just now was just to express excitement. Thinking of this, Chen Yi himself was a little unsure. In short, he was responsible for Lang Luoli anyway, so in order to avoid him being sentimental, it was better not to respond to her prematurely. Chen Yi made up his mind, and at this moment Hu Juyu came over. Hu Juyu came to him, held up her skirt, bowed elegantly, and said respectfully, "Good morning, master. The territory of the elves is in the westernmost part of the continent, and the clothing there is slightly different, somewhat like the Blue Star European medieval style." Hu Juyu rarely wore a maid outfit, but put on a noble dress. It's just that this aristocratic dress is made of different materials. The upper body is made of gauze, and the healthy wheat-colored skin is looming through it. The skirt on the lower body should be shorter, just enough to expose the white stockings on the calf. While Hu Juyu was speaking, her cheeks were a little red. Yesterday, the owner carried her back to the room. I feel so shy just thinking about it. When Chen Yi saw Hu Juyu appearing, he walked over and said hello. "Good morning, Yue." At this time, Lang Luoli and Su Jiqian stood together, looking at Hu Juyu also returning to a healthy state, and smiling happily. The relationship between the three of them is very good. Hu Juyu's cultivation talent is average and her strength is weaker. Su Jiqian and Lang Luoli often protect her and assist her in her cultivation. Chen Yi held a pill in his hand and handed it to Hu Juyu excitedly. Hu Juyu asked with some confusion, "Master, what is this?" Chen Yi grabbed her shoulders and said happily, "This is the marrow cleansing pill. After taking it, you will become as strong as the senior sisters." When Chen Yi was exchanging exercises for his disciples, he also discovered this marrow cleansing pill in the system store. According to the introduction of the system, anyone with any talent can be promoted to the 6th grade spiritual route after taking this elixir. After exchanging this elixir and adding in the skills practiced by Hu Juyu, Chen Yi only had 1,000 system points left. Although the system point is gone, Chen Yi doesn't feel bad. As long as he can lead his disciples to live a good life, it will be gone if the system point is gone. Moreover, when his disciples improve their realm, he can still obtain a steady stream of system points. Hu Juyu heard the master's words and took the elixir from the master's hand with an extremely excited expression. She had never heard of pills that could change talents, but even in the elven court where she once lived, the marrow cleansing pill was a priceless treasure. Moreover, it can only improve a little talent. It is impossible to improve several spiritual roots at once. She had never heard of pills that could change talents, but even in the elven court where she once lived, the marrow cleansing pill was a priceless treasure. Moreover, it can only improve a little talent. It is impossible to improve several spiritual roots at once. But according to what the master said, the pill in the master's hand can make her as powerful as the 2 senior sisters. This is too incredible. Hu Juyu took the marrow cleansing pill from the master, swallowed it excitedly, and then drank it under the affirmative gaze of the master. Hu Juyu heard that when taking the marrow cleansing pill, the spiritual roots in the body will change accordingly, so there will be abnormal pain, and life will be worse than death. Some monks will even die directly because they cannot survive. Therefore, marrow cleansing pill is generally not given to low-level monks. Hu Juyu didn't know if she could survive it, but in order to be able to help her master in the future, there was nothing wrong with taking a chance. Besides, the master is by her side. As long as she is with her, there is no difficulty that she cannot overcome. As the elixir entered her body, she subconsciously leaned into her master's arms and clung to him tightly. Seeing her look like this, Chen Yi thought it was a side effect of the marrow cleansing pill, so he hugged her and gently stroked her back. When Chen Yi redeemed the marrow cleansing pill, he clearly remembered that the above introduction said that this marrow cleansing pill will not have any side effects. It is produced by Tongzi brother and must be a high-quality product. Why does UAA seem to be in pain now? If it's not the system, can you trust it? Hu Juyu just hugged her master. She thought there would be pain in her body, but instead she felt a burst of warmth and even a little comfort. There was no discomfort at all, it was just that she was worrying too much. It's just that she was a little afraid of pain, so she hugged her master tightly. Now that there is no pain, she is embarrassed to let go. The owner's body smelled so good, it was almost attracting her. Since the owner has misunderstood, she might as well just hug and enjoy it for a while. Seeing her hugging him tightly, Chen Yi thought she was experiencing pain, so he questioned the system crazily in his heart. He would rather doubt his own system than his disciples. System. Chen Yi. Hey, what do you mean by that expression? Give me a reasonable explanation. System. It's nothing, I just think you're a little down. Chen Yi. Hu Juyu didn't know that one of her small actions caused an unknown system to take the blame. Soon after, the warmth in Hu Juyu's body disappeared, indicating that her spiritual root had been transformed. When she opened her eyes again, she felt that her eyes were extremely clear and clear. Even her 5 senses had been strengthened a lot, and her brain had become more flexible. She tried to breathe in the spiritual power around her, and found that the spiritual power she could mobilize now was dozens of times higher than before. She has really achieved the same talent as the 2 senior sisters and is no longer a drag. She can finally assist her master like the 2 senior sisters and stay with her master forever. Hu Juyu was extremely excited when she heard the news. She raised her head and looked at her master's handsome face. Although her eyes were a little dodgy due to shyness, she still mustered up the courage, moved her red lips slightly, and slowly approached him. She didn't know how the master obtained this elixir, but the efficacy of this elixir was simply the only supreme treasure in the world. The master actually gave her such a good thing. She didn't know how to repay her master. When she just lay in her master's arms, she could clearly feel her master's heartbeat speeding up. Since the master's heart beats faster because of her, it means that he is interested in her, so she must give him some response. But she always felt that this was not repaying her master, but rewarding herself. But no matter what, as long as the master wants it, she can give it to him everything. Even here, even if there are 2 senior sisters watching, she can do more bold things with her master here. It depends on whether the owner is willing or not. Hu Juyu was thinking. Just when her lips were about to touch master's face, she suddenly felt a sticky feeling coming from her body. She looked down and found a layer of dirty material floating on her body. Ah, Hu Juyu exclaimed. She just wanted to use such a dirty body to kiss the perfect master. I am so embarrassed. She was so shy for a moment that she collapsed to the ground in shame. Chen Yi felt anxious when he saw this scene. He quickly leaned down to support her and asked with concern. UAA, are you okay? If you feel uncomfortable, you can tell me. He thought Hu Juyu fell to the ground because she couldn't bear the pain in her body. Hu Juyu felt her master's clean hands touching her dirty skin, and she blamed herself extremely and whispered. Master, don't touch, this disciple is dirty. Chen Yi didn't care about this, but carefully placed his palm on her forehead, released a trace of spiritual power, checked her physical condition, and said at the same time. These stains should be caused by the marrow cleansing pill expelling impurities from your body out of your body. They are not serious, so don't worry. Chen Yi thought she was frightened by the dirt on her body, so she explained carefully. Hu Juyu felt the warm hand of her master touching her forehead. The warm touch came and a blush appeared on her face. The master didn't dislike her because she was dirty, but actually cared about her so much. The current owner is really so gentle. How could she resist this? After checking her body, Chen Yi found nothing unusual, and he was relieved. The reason why UAA had this reaction may be because she had just changed her spiritual root and was not used to it. Chen Yi thought in his heart and said at the same time. You are in good health, don't worry, but if you feel uncomfortable, you can come to see me as a teacher. After checking Hu Juyu's injuries, Chen Yi helped her get up. Realizing that Hu Juyu might need a bath now, she took advantage of this opportunity and said to everyone. By the way, Shixin has built a hot spring for you. You can take a bath first and feel comfortable. After hearing the master's words, Lang Luoli asked out the doubts she had long had in her heart. By the way, master, did you build all this place? Did you build it in one night? In this world, it is said that powerful monks can move mountains, topple seas, build a building with their hands, and even have the power of transcending tribulation to become immortals and create a world out of thin air. Chen Yi was once just one step away from reaching the Violet Palace realm. He created so many buildings in one night. Although it was outrageous, it was not inexplicable. Chen Yi used this excuse to explain. It was built for the teacher. Let's not talk about this for now. The teacher will take you to see the hot springs. He was worried that this reason would be exposed, so he simply changed the topic. The three women are all monks born and raised in this world. They have also seen the profound heaven sect built by Chen Yi in the past. Although the construction speed is not so fast, they are still acceptable. Seeing that their master was too lazy to explain, they didn't ask any more questions. Su Jiqian and Lang Luoli each held one of master's arms and followed him with smiles. Hu Juyu followed behind, looking at everyone with a smile. Soon everyone arrived at the indoor hot spring. As soon as they arrived around the hot spring, a look of surprise appeared on the faces of the three women. This hot spring water is no ordinary spring water. The traces of heat emanating from it are actually spiritual energy emerging from the body if you look closely. And this spring water is actually made of spiritual energy. I can't imagine how fast your realm will improve if you practice here. Su Jiqian said in surprise. Wow, master, you can even build this, it's so amazing. Chen Yi was a little shy when being praised. Although the Chuan Palace was given by the system also belonged to him. It shouldn't be too much to say that he built it. System. At this time, Lang Luoli saw that the master was not leaving. She thought that the master wanted to wash with them, and she suddenly seemed a little nervous. He put his hands on his clothes, hesitating whether to take them off. When she thought of showing it to her master, she felt a little shy, but at the same time she felt inexplicably excited. If it was for master to see, it should be fine. Thinking in her mind, her dress slid down her shoulders, revealing the blue underwear underneath. Su Jiqian's face was filled with horror as she watched her junior sister start bathing and changing clothes so quickly. Master hasn't left yet, why did you take off your clothes? Well, junior sister, you did it on purpose, right? I absolutely cannot let you succeed. She thought to herself as she also took off her top, revealing the purple underwear straps underneath. Chen Yi was still enjoying the praise from his eldest disciple just now. When he saw that the two disciples beside him had begun to change clothes, he was surprised and took a few steps back, his face flushed. Please, what are you doing? Don't you think that I stay here as a teacher just to bathe with you? Is this reasonable? What kind of person is your teacher? Chen Yi looked at the two disciples in front of him who were only wearing underwear. The girl's soft and white skin was almost visible. Their perfect figures had their own characteristics, making it difficult to take their eyes away. Chen Yi felt a surge of energy and blood. Realizing that something bad was going to happen, he quickly turned his back. Ahem, you guys wash up first and stay out of the way as a teacher. He cleared his throat awkwardly, then closed the bathroom door as if he was fleeing. He stood at the door and took 2 deep breaths to adjust himself before extinguishing the fire in his heart. If this was done in front of the disciples, it would be an embarrassment to the adults. At this time, Lang Luoli and Su Jiqian were standing in the bathroom, looking at the master who left in a hurry, and couldn't help but smile. The current master is gentle, funny, and even more perfect. It was simply irresistible to them. After Su Jiqian came back to her senses, she looked at her junior sister's slightly shy look and teased with a smile. Oh, junior sister, the shy look on her face makes senior sister feel tingly in her heart. Now that I think about it, I feel embarrassed. When you took off your clothes just now, you were more decisive than anyone else. Su Jiqian thought in her heart. When Lang Luoli heard her senior sister's ridicule, she recovered from her shyness. She looked at her senior sister's ripped stockings that had not yet taken off and replied casually. No way, junior sister, I still need to learn more from you, elder sister. By the way, are those ripped pantyhose of yours a new style? Could it be that master tore them? Although she didn't see her senior sister and her master kiss with her own eyes, she dared to conclude that the two of them must have done that kind of thing, but it was just one step away. How dare the senior sister be so bold? What if the master has no feelings for them and does this rashly, causing the master to become defensive? By then she couldn't do anything anymore, both of them had finished playing. When she thought of this, Lang Luoli still felt a little unhappy. When Su Jiqian was asked about this, she blushed with a guilty conscience and quickly bathed in the hot spring to cover up her blushing face. Lang Luoli didn't waste any more time and bathed in the hot spring. Su Jiqian looked at her junior sister's appearance, and it seemed that she had recovered just like her, but she still asked with concern. "Junior sister, are your injuries healed? Although the two often quarrel about some things, they will always be good sisters in life. Especially in the past 3 years, the master's temperament has changed drastically. The two women have relied on each other and supported each other, and have formed a deeper friendship." Seeing her senior sister change the topic, Lang Luoli's expression became gentle and she replied, "Well, senior sister, you have recovered too." Su Jiqian nodded, and then they both looked at Hu Juyu. At this time, Hu Juyu soaked her body in the hot spring, with only half of her head exposed. This hot spring has a special purification effect. Once all dirt enters the hot spring, it will be dissolved and eliminated, and the hot spring water will always remain clear and clean. Su Jiqian swam over first, hugged Hu Juyu's shoulders generously, and said, "Master transformed your talent into a 6th grade spiritual root, and then we can practice together. Master also said before that he would accept you as his 3rd disciple, so I'll call you junior sister. Isn't that too much?" Hu Juyu looked a little cautious and nodded. Seeing that she had taken the bait, Su Jiqian continued with a wicked smile. "Junior sister Hu, you also like master, right?" When Hu Juyu heard what the senior sister said, her cheeks turned red and she waved her hands quickly with a shy expression. "Senior sister Su, this can't be said." Su Jiqian smiled and said, "What does it matter? There are only 3 of us here. Now that the master has recovered, as a matter of fair competition, master, we have to include you. Be more careful in the future and remember not to eat secretly." Su Jiqian scratched her waist while talking. Hu Juyu was scratched and laughed non-stop. At this time, Chen Yi had just left the bathroom not far away. Hearing the sounds of play coming from inside, he felt a little curious. What on earth is going on inside, so happy? How about taking a look? In this Chuan Palace, if Chen Yi wants, he can release his consciousness to any place and see clearly. In other words, he can also see what happens in the indoor hot spring. Thinking of this, Chen Yi suddenly became excited. But in the end, he shook his head violently to clear away the distracting thoughts in his mind. He found that ever since he came into contact with the 2 disciples, he began to have more strange thoughts in his mind, and he couldn't control them at all. But reason eventually defeated evil. If the 3 girls knew that he had the idea of peeping at them in the shower, would he still be considered a perverted master? Must be under control. Thinking in his mind, Chen Yi came to the square and sat on the tea table on the edge of the square. This tea table is very elegant and exquisite, with a stream running on it and even a carved mountain model, which is very poetic. There is also a tea tree next to the tea table. The tea branches are lush and leafy, which is perfect for enjoying the shade in summer. Sitting near the tea tree, Chen Yi felt that his thoughts had become much clearer, and he began to make plans in his mind for teaching his disciples how to practice in the future. At the same time, he also took out the exercises that Hu Juyu had practiced and prepared them in advance. Just before he could send it out, Hu Juyu suddenly collapsed to the ground, which was delayed. As long as he can bring his disciples' practice back on track, he is barely qualified as a master. What I owe everyone can be considered as compensation. Thinking about it in his mind, Chen Yi felt a little bored waiting for the disciples to take a bath. Listening to the rustling of the tea trees in the wind, a very comfortable feeling of calm filled his body. Although the monks in the divine treasure realm rarely sleep and rest, he who transmigrated digested so many memories of his previous host and experienced them. After seeing the disciples return to a healthy state, his hanging heart finally dropped, and suddenly a sense of exhaustion came out, and he unexpectedly fell asleep here. After a while, the 3 women took a shower, put on new clothes, and then walked out of the bathroom. The three girls came to the square together to look for the master, and found that the master was already sitting on a stone chair under the tea tree and fell asleep. Chen Yi was wearing a green robe, with long hair floating in the breeze, and his breathing was even and soothing. Su Jiqian took the lead and walked forward, looking at master's perfect sleeping face. She was a little lost. She still remembered that when the master passed by the demon race territory and rescued her, he was also wearing a blue robe. The master at that time was extremely tall and flawless in her heart. When she saw the master put on a robe of this color again, she felt a little uncontrollable. Master is simply trying to seduce her by dressing like this. Since the master is seducing her, it should be fine if she secretly kisses him, right? Su Jiqian thought to herself, and moved her soft lips towards the master's cheek. Lang Luoli saw this and quickly stepped forward, grabbed the senior sister who was about to speak, and whispered, "Sister, you ate it secretly again." Hu Juyu also nodded beside her with her mouth bulging, as if to say, "Senior sister, what you are doing is wrong." Su Jiqian scratched her head in annoyance. Junior sister Lang and junior sister who refused to let her go, but she really couldn't control herself. What should she do? Immediately, she had an idea and came up with a good idea. She suggested in a low voice, "How about this? There are 3 of us, 1 person at a time, and no one is eating secretly. Is that okay this time?" Lang Luoli's cheeks turned slightly red when she heard her senior sister's suggestion. Senior sister is indeed a succubus. This suggestion is so bold. But she liked it so much. Lang Luoli smiled and whispered back, "That's pretty much it." After she said that, she put her lips to the left side of master's cheek. Su Jiqian was a little angry when she saw this. Junior sister Lang was really here before her. Then, not to be outdone, she licked her lips and kissed her right cheek with a smile. At this time, Hu Juyu looked at the bold moves of the 2 senior sisters and stood there shyly pinching the corners of her clothes. The senior sisters were too bold, and she was a little embarrassed. But looking at the master's delicate and perfect sleeping eyes, I also couldn't control myself. She realized that she would regret missing this opportunity. She simply suppressed her shyness, slowly moved her lips to her master's forehead, and kissed him. This was Hu Juyu's first time doing this. She couldn't control her strength well, so she heard a boo sound. Then she saw the master's eyes moving, as if he was about to wake up. She backed away in panic, holding her blushing face at a loss. At this time, Chen Yi rubbed his eyes and opened his eyes in a daze. Although this sleep only took a short rest, my energy was very full. When he opened his eyes again, he felt extremely refreshed. After Chen Yi woke up, he touched his face with some confusion. Why does the right side of my face feel sticky, as if there is saliva on it? Really weird. That's all, don't think about it anymore. Chen Yi focused his eyes forward again and found that the 3 women were standing obediently in front of him. However, what was different from before was that the 3 girls had just taken a bath, and there were still wet drops of water dripping from their bodies. Because the temperature of the hot spring was a bit high, there was a slight blush on all 3 of them. Su Jiqian put on a new pair of pantyhose, which were also black stockings, but the difference from before was that they even had lettering on them. The hot spring water that had not yet been dried stained parts of the pantyhose. Lang Luoli was not wearing pantyhose, and her very slender and well-proportioned legs were just exposed to the air. It was as if she had no shoes on her feet, with a layer of transparent ice like high heels on the outside, and her beautiful feet were looming. Hu Juyu changed from the aristocratic dress back to the maid outfit, with her thin white stockings just right on her thighs. Seeing that her master was looking at her slightly absent-mindedly, Hu Juyu pursed her lips, twisted her legs together shyly, and spoke softly. "Master, do you like my disciple's clothes?" Chen Yi was slightly absent-minded for a while, and then suddenly came back to his senses when he heard Hu Juyu's call, with a look of embarrassment on his face. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.